Hello, welcome back to day two of State of the Movement from Struggle to Strategy, reimagining justice for youth through collective power. Friendly reminder that today's call will be recorded. Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle O'Mala. Either or will suffice. I use any and all pronouns with a sign of respect, and I'll be your host for today. A little context about me for those who don't know me. I am a community health outreach worker for Silk Lehigh Valley, which is an LGBTQ plus and ally dropping space for teens and young adults from ages of 14 to 29, providing them with a wide range of resources ranging from HIV and STI testing, case management, sex ed, and taking them to really, really cool places, like to the pool, and having camps for them. The recording from yesterday's session will be posted on YouTube, most likely in 2 weeks. I wanted to take some time to recap for those who might have missed or would like a little refresher. So, yesterday, we had some lovely words from Marcella Middleton, which is the executive director of Way Home America. She's amazing. We had the most centering, we had a moment of centering in community wellness guided by Shaq Jones, crazy yogi, love the mindfulness meditation. We had an amazing group strategy session, and it felt great to hear everyone's perspective when it comes to hard hitting questions and topics. So now I would like to take a moment to go over our agenda for today. First things first, we're kicking everything off with a keynote speaker, and their name is Jalen. After following the keynote speaker, we'll have the tasting, a theatrical invitation to the movement. Following that, we'll have a short commercial break, little break. Following after we come back from our break, we'll have strategy rooms, breakout rooms. Pathways to action is what we're calling it. Following our strategy rooms, we'll watch the New Deal Hill collection. Following that, we'll go through a policy forum. Then we'll be reimagining youth justice, civil rights corps, and the fighting permanency with Erin Cloud. Following that, we'll have a great closing performance from chat. Then we'll have final remarks from me, and then we'll have time to connect and network. So here's a brief overview of the strategy rooms that we're having today. So we have our immigration justice track, which is storytelling and its power to resist oppressed regimes and unite communities, centering the voices of undocumented immigrants. Then we also have the youth-led innovation track, elevating youth voices, youth homelessness in LA. And then we also have the economic justice track, which is pathways to economic equity, a strategy session for financial empowerment and stability. So now I would also like to take a moment to go over our house rules of engagement. So for today, these were created so that we could all show up, show out, and participate to the best of our ability. First things first, we ask you to be present. When we say be present, we're encouraging active participation to maximize our time. We would also like you to be mindful of your presence as well as others. For example, Elmo, take a step up, step back, and so on. Also, shouldn't be driving. Being present, we want you in the moment. We want you here. No distraction. Be open, safely, meaning respectfully, and not just for always for comfort. When a speaker errs, the listener should correct, respectfully and gracefully. When the correction comes, the reply should be thoughtful. It's okay if people slip up, and it's okay to correct them, as long as you're doing it respectfully. We also encourage deep listening, asking folks to follow up with questions to understand rather than just to respond, or add your perspective to another person's experience. Speak intentionally. Please use harmful generalization and reductive over have a reductive over generalization. When sharing personal experiences, consider the purpose of sharing and be mindful of the time and embark in conversation that speaks to you when possible. And be a part and contribute to solutions. Don't assume that we all, as in the participants, even the people that are hosting these groups, have it figured out. We're all here to figure it out together, collectively learning and in collaboration. Be mindful of sharing information and be open to call-ins from others in the group, starting with questions and curiosity instead of accusation. We ask you all to return back at or a little bit before the minute mark of these breaks to allow us to cover all the exciting content that we have for you guys today.
I am honored to introduce someone whose work, story, and spirit deeply reflect the heart of this movement. Jay Lang, who uses they them pronouns, is a powerful advocate and direct service provider based in Richmond. Their journey from experiencing housing instability to becoming a respected leader in this work is a testament to their resilience, passion, and unwavering commitment to justice. Since joining Advocates for Richmond Youth in 2015, Jay has used their lived-in experience to inform deeply empathic and effective advocacy. I am so sorry, guys. I'm a little tongue-tied. They currently serve as the Base Foundation CCO and are a member of the National Alliance to End Homelessness Community Strategic Team. Jeez, I'm sorry. Where they help guide national efforts to center equality for youth voice and ending homelessness. Jay's work spans mental health education, affirming spaces, and the empowerment of young people. And beyond all that, they're proud mother of a BSW student. They're a proud mother, a BSW student, a small business owner, and a self-published author of a mental health and wellness and self-care activity book. Jay will be talking to us about reimagining justice for youth through a collective power. This is not just a regular talk, but a call to action. We are so grateful to have Jay here with us today. Please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Jay.
Thank you so much, Milo. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry. Okay, so I just want everyone to take a moment and imagine a young person that you care about, a sibling, a cousin, a neighbor, a friend, yourself. Imagine standing at a crossroad without a map, with no safe place to go and no safe place to look. No guarantee of where your next meal will come from, and no certainty that someone will see them for who they truly are when they do ask for support. This is the reality for millions of young people across our country experiencing homelessness. But it's not just about being without a house, y'all. It's about being without belonging. It's about being without safety and without the basic dignity that every human being deserves. And it's our calling, it's our responsibility to change that. And I believe that's why everyone's here today. So we're not just here to acknowledge that this is a crisis, but to talk about the power of intersectional advocacy and leadership, and how centering the full humanity of youth experiencing homelessness can light the way forward. More than 4 million young people experience homelessness each year in the US. But these numbers, they don't tell the full story. When we look closer, we see that Black, Indigenous, and LGBTQ plus young people are far more likely to face homelessness, not because of their choices, but because of the systems built to fail them. The housing systems, healthcare, education, these are all not separate battles. They're all interconnected barriers shaped by race, gender identity, sexual orientation, and economic injustice. And this is why intersectionality matters. It helps us understand that no one lives a single issue life, excuse me. There's no one size fit all answer. And if we're serious about ending youth homelessness, we must be serious about dismantling all of the layers of oppression that causes it. I have an example I can share. So for the past 3 years, with my lived experience of systems failing me and of homelessness, I have had the pleasure of being a direct service specialist, or a case manager for those of you who do not enjoy fancy titles, to an organization that prided themselves on the importance of intersectionality, autonomy, and the power of youth in action. At Marsha Marion's Neighbors, we centered youth voice and individual autonomy because we knew that one-size-fits-all solutions don't work. Our program was designed by and for young people, with youth and community-led planning teams and advisory boards that amplified youth voices and placed agency directly in their hands. They did this first by living within those values from the top down and then back up again. People with all different types of lived experience were hired so that we could meet these young people at as many crossroads as possible. Because when young people see leaders who reflect their identities and experiences, it fosters trust and real transformation. Intersectional leadership doesn't just mean acknowledging the differences. It means weaving them into the very structure of our support, of our services, of our advocacy. It means making sure that every young person sees a place for themselves in the future that we're building. And one way we will get there is through intersectional advocacy. Advocacy is where we turn hope into action. So here in Richmond, we advocated for a youth housing program and comprehensive wraparound services. But the most powerful part about that was that we didn't advocate for the young people. We advocated with them. We listened. We followed their lead. And we made space at decision-making tables for their lived experience to shape all of the policies and all of the practices of our program. And that's how Marsha Marion's Neighbors was born. For youth, by youth, for community, by community. And community empowerment means creating ecosystems where youth are not just survivors of injustice, but architects of change. And that's why every program, every organization, every grassroots should foster those types of morals. Solutions that work are trauma-informed and rooted in harm reduction. And that's what that can look like. That means creating spaces where young people are met with compassion instead of judgment, where they are safe to be who they are, where without fear of punishment or any type of stigma. It means forging partnerships between nonprofits, grassroots, healthcare providers, your local and your state governments. Because not one organization, not one leader can solve this issue alone. I know firsthand that integrating these methods can lead to significant improvements in mental health outcomes and housing stability, and most of all, in youth empowerment. It's proof that when we lead with empathy, we can really build lasting solutions. Which is why I'm here to say that this work needs you. Every single one of us. Whether you're a policymaker, a case manager, an advocate, a concerned neighbor, a young person, we all have a role to play. And I know that because you're here today, you also know that. But here's a few ways that you can get started if you haven't already. Partner with organizations fighting to end youth homelessness. Advocate for policy changes that break down systemic barriers. Center youth leadership in your programs and all of your movements. Speak up against stigma where you see it in conversations, in boardrooms, and most importantly, in legislation. Change does not come from a handful of heroes. It comes from a collective. It comes from consistent action. And every action you take can be the turning point in a young person's life. So let's be clear. Youth experiencing homelessness are not broken. They are brilliant. They are resilient. They are powerful. And when we build systems that honor their full complexity of who they actually are, we don't just offer them shelters or homes. We offer. So today, I ask you, will you be a part of building that future? Will you lead with intersectionality? Will you center youth voices? And will you carry this flame forward? Because when we stand together across movements, across identities, across communities, there's no limit to the impact that we can create. And before I go, if no one has said it to you lately, I just want to say thank you to each and every. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your commitment and your love. Not only in showing up today, but how you show up every day for yourself, for your loved ones, for your communities. Together, we're all forging not just pathways out of homelessness, but bridges that unite and strengthen our communities. So thank you again for sharing space with me. I hope that everyone enjoys the rest of what Away Home America has in store for you today. And I will pass it back to Milo.
Thank you so much, Jay. I have a question for you actually. So for me as a young person who also has like lived in experience and is now in like a role of somewhat leadership over other young people, what kind of advice would you give me to like in a sense put a spotlight on our young people more and how could I utilize my platform to bring up the voices of my young people?
For sure. I absolutely love that you asked me that. So I think the first thing, and you already said this in the intro and speaking of how we wanted to share the space together, step up, step back. So step up to create the space where you can allow your partners and your co-peers to step up, and then you step back and you let them do their thing. You remind them that they have the power, like they are so powerful, and you remind them that you're living proof of what speaking voice into power can be. Like you are here hosting an entire conference. Like look at that. You did that. And if you can do it, why can't they? So definitely I would create this space, have a conversation, see if they want to step up also, because that's not always something that people like. It took me a while to even want to be in the spotlight. I was behind the scenes. But yeah, I would definitely start with that conversation, see what goals they have and aspirations. If they have aspirations to go out and do conferences and workshops and stuff like that, then definitely use your platform to help them get there, and reach out to me and I'll use mine as well. I'm always at someone's conference.
Thank you so much. I
Of
really
course, thank
appreciate
you.
everything that you've said. Even like creating, like when you said creating spaces without fear and without harm, like it kind of resonated with me because as a young person, there wasn't spaces. There wasn't places that I felt comfortable going to. And now being in a position where I can advocate for those spaces and thrive to have those spaces and seeing that it's not just me thinking about these spaces, and it's everyone on this call that are thinking about these spaces, and we're working in these spaces and we're doing what we need to do. And I definitely agree when it comes to like having the conversation and listening to our young people because they're the voices that actually need to be heard. And thank you also for reminding us that it takes a village, not just one person is going to be able to do all these things. It takes a whole bunch of hands to be able to put the pot together.
For sure.
And my favorite quote that you said so far is that the youth are not broken, but brilliant. And I'm putting that on a t-shirt. It's going on a t-shirt.
I was gonna
Going
say,
on
like,
a
I'll
t-shirt.
make it for you and mail it to you. I got you.
It's so good. It's so good. So good. So thank you so much, Jay, for sharing your powerful words, your truth, your unwavering commitment to transformation, your journey for navigating housing and stability to becoming a fierce advocate and leader is not only inspiring, it's a living testament to what is possible when we are centered lived experience, community care, and intersectional leadership. You reminded us today that youth experiencing homelessness are not just problems to be fixed, but are people with brilliance, agency, and dreams, and are worth investing in. Your call to action is to lead us with empathy, to build systems rooted in justice, and to follow the leadership of young people is a challenge we all must rise to. So then, on behalf of everyone here, thank you for your time, your energy, your hard work, and everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. We see you, we feel you, we honor you. So thank you so much. And if you guys want, you could definitely connect with Jay Lang. Karan put their Instagram in the chat. And later on, we would have something that we can talk about how we all could chit chat and connect. So yeah, oh my God, that was so good. So many good voices. I love to hear the voice of the people. So up next, we invite you to settle in and open up your senses to a truly immersive experience. Grace Loescher, she, they pronouns, will guide us through the tasting, art as dialogue and description, a bold, interactive theatrical performance designed to deepen our understanding of youth homelessness, understanding the youth homelessness landscape. Through playful dialogue shifts, emoji reactions, and chat prompts, we'll examine how language, tone, and storytelling shape who gets heard and who gets funding. This session is for anyone who's ever felt stuck in a grant cycle, silence in the system, or sparked by an idea that art can change it all. Grace Loescher is the director of the Creation District. Grace is also a graduate of Rollins College in Florida with a major in studio art and a minor in theater arts. As an artist, she has exhibited works of experimental art, sculpture, and installation. This isn't your typical performance. This is a full-bodied invitation to feel, to witness, and to engage, where spoken words, storytelling, movement, and sensory elements blend together to spotlight the themes at the heart of our gathering: justice, collaboration, and healing. This is more than just a performance. It's a call to collective transformation. So get ready to be moved, to be challenged, and to be inspired. Come hungry for change. Let's welcome Grace to the virtual stage.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm sure people are like, oh my, do I need a seatbelt for this? That was awesome. I really appreciate you all. And thanks for creating this space. I think this is really healing and beautiful. So big thank you to our friends at Away Home America for bringing us together for this. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to be jumping into a little Prezi that'll guide us through this. So bear with me one second. Okay. And hopefully that worked. Sorry. Here we go. Okay, excellent. Can everybody see the Prezi screen? Hopefully. Okay, perfect. I'm also monitoring our chat on a different screen, so just throw anything in there. If my head is pivoting, that is why. But welcome everybody to Mic Check, Art as Dialogue and Disruption. My name is Grace Loescher. I use they, them, or she, her pronouns. And I'm a director of a program called the Creation District in Sacramento, California, which I'm going to share a tiny bit about just to sort of give the palette of what brought me here to bringing creativity and the arts into the movement. But before I do, I wanted to invite everybody in the Zoom room who is willing to think about one creative identity that y'all hold and to go ahead and put that in the chat. And when I say creative identity, don't worry, I don't necessarily mean that you are a singer or a dancer or something that we traditionally think of with the arts. That does work, but it could also be like maybe you're an activist and that's a part of your creative identity. Maybe you're a parent. Parenting is really creative. Maybe you're a baker, could be a poet. Whatever it is, if you are willing, yes, I'm seeing writer, I'm seeing educator, beautiful. Just throw those in the chat so we can start to get a feel for which kind of artists are in the space, because we are going to need creativity in the movement. We're going to need a diversity of creativity. So just throw it all in the chat. Oh, I love a lover of life, mixed media. Yes, perfect. Throw it all in there and we'll start to get a feel for who's in the room. While y'all are doing that, I just want to give a very brief overview to my work at the Creation District, just to kind of contextualize what brought me here today and why I believe that art is such an essential part of the movement. So the Creation District is a program in Sacramento, California for youth and young adults experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity. I started this program about a decade ago with the belief that young people need to be honored for way more than just their housing status, their income status, or some of these things that we tend to focus on with the social services. And I really want to make sure that we're seeing young people for their creative identities, who we are beyond just some of these basic needs. So the Creation District is a 7,000 square foot drop-in center located in downtown Sacramento. We have your basic needs where folks can come in, charge their phones, grab a snack, respite, but we also have open studio space where every single day of the week, young people can come in and try out different instruments, bang on the drums, use a pottery wheel, use a canvas, just kind of play and create and experiment at their own pace. We also have a youth-run record label called Creation District Records, probably our most popular program, where 4 days a week we have a professional audio engineer come into the space, and youth can have 1 hour sessions where they get to record their original music, learn how to do music production, print and produce albums, have Spotify channels. 4 times a year, we have album release shows where we partner with different artists. We go to different venues. Youth are paid for their work. They get to get their music out on the stage and out into the world. So this is a really beautiful space to get to hear stories and the healing power of music. We also have a program called Street Art Reach, which is sort of our version of outreach, where we converted a mobile van into this art studio that kind of pops up in the back. And we'll go around to different encampments or shelters or places where young people can't get to us, so that we can bring them music and poetry and pop-up recording and all kinds of different things. And then we have art reach kits so that folks who are staying outside can create street art with found materials. We also have workshops and groups that are taught by local artists. All of our workshops are rooted in social justice, wellness, or life skills. So we're using a different sort of creative medium, be it poetry, comedy, music, to talk about wellness, to talk about life skills, to talk about advocacy and what's going on in our world. In each of these workshops, folks can learn different life skills, like maybe you're learning budgeting by creating a show, or marketing by selling your artwork, or you're focusing on tactics like meditation through music and beat making, or processing stress by ceramics and other things like that. All of these workshops are designed by the young people who come into our program in our Youth Arts Council, which is a group of young people who tell us what they want to see, what's working, what's not working, and help design this work. We also have education and employment programs. I don't have time to go into all of that in this presentation because I want to make sure that we get to play today, but I just wanted to give a brief overview of some of that work. If y'all are interested, at the end, I'll share a slide that has my email, also has our Creation District Instagram, our website page, so you can learn more, and I'd be happy to connect and talk about ways that we can bring art into the movement. One of the things I just really want to hammer on when I talk about this is I'm a big believer that art is not an accessory to advocacy. It is a true strategy for resistance and change. And what I mean by that is it's a really integral part of the movement. I think that we use our creative identities, that we use our artistic expression, that we really use our whole selves when we're advocating for change. Creativity, as we know, is not always invited into the spaces that we need them to be in. So we have to force our way through. But that's why I think it's really important that we think about who we are as artists, who we are as creators, and we practice bringing those into rooms and causing a bit of disruption with the arts. So we're going to be doing that and practicing that a little bit today. But that is kind of the core belief that brought me here. So thank you all for listening to that background. Without further ado, I want to talk a little bit about improv, which is one of the forms that we're going to be using today and practicing today. This is a unique one, but an important one to talk about in the movement. Is anybody here willing to come off mute and tell me what the definition of improv is, or throw it in the chat? I'll keep an eye on the chat if that's easier, and let me know what you think improv is or does. Cool. I see somebody say create on the spot. Absolutely. On the fly. Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. So improv is really just making things up as you go. It's responding to challenges, responding to prompts. When things are thrown your way, you are kind of just making it up without a script. And we can already see, right, how that relates to our work in the movement, no matter what role you're playing, as if we're navigating services, if we are operating services, if we are advocating for funding, we are having to kind of respond and make things up on the go. I think it's a really important model for navigating these high stakes conversations and having to move as things change in the moment, and also bringing a bit of humor into the movement. This work is hard. I know many of us have navigated trauma, difficult situations, so being able to laugh and play and have fun with our comrades in the movement, I think, is an essential part of what we're doing. Okay, before y'all play, I'm gonna do a little practice round of what improv is, and kind of practice making sure that I wouldn't ask y'all to do anything that I wouldn't do. And then think about it in a moment. I'm gonna ask for a couple of volunteers. So one of the golden rules of improv is yes and. And what this means is just that whenever somebody makes an offer to us or a suggestion, in improv, we're just going to roll with it and we're not going to try to change it. So if I'm in a scene with somebody and they say, okay, we're in outer space, I'm not going to say, no, we're not, we're in the jungle. I'm going to say, yes, and here's my space helmet. This is a really important strategy for us, I think, in movement work, because we have to start thinking critically and creatively and trying to yes and each other's ideas and think outside of the box. So for this first activity, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do a little improv scene. It's going to be 2 minutes. And I'm going to pretend like I am giving a tour of a new drop-in center virtually. Pretend that I'm giving you a tour. You're in the scene with me. You're seeing a drop-in center. And as I'm giving it, I want you all to just send in the chat examples of curveballs that you might throw out. So I threw a couple examples here. Maybe I'm giving a tour and you say the respite room is on fire. or a raccoon pops out of the vending machine. Whatever it is, you throw it in the chat, and my job in that 2-minute scene is to see it and yes and it and respond to it as if it's real. So anything goes, throw it all out in the chat. I'll respond to what I see, and we will get this 2-minute scene started. Does that sound okay to everybody? Okay, this is our warm-up. Feel free to stretch, and I will go ahead and begin the scene. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Way Home America Drop-In Center. I am so happy to get to show you this new space. It has taken us years to fund this 10,000 square foot center in the middle of downtown Nowheresville. And we are so excited to be here today. So first and foremost, I want to take you over to our intake center. And in our intake center, we are greeting hundreds of youth every single day, and we are helping to acclimate them to this space. And as you can see, there's some water on the floor, and I know it looks like the bathrooms are flooding. What we're actually trying to do is open a pool. We thought that creating a swimming pool in the drop-in center would be a good way to, okay, and then sorry, the swimming pool is still getting used, so I just had a little fall there. But we're really excited for this. It's very innovative that we're trying to do this. And so sorry, okay, and then I know there's someone just ran right by you. Sorry, just look out. We don't have, I'm working to get a lot of things together. It's day one opening. So I'm so sorry. And then, excuse me, could you please take the floaties outside? There's no floaties in the main. Well, that's a new safe space agreement. We're working on the floaty safe space agreement, so just bear with us. But I'm just so happy you got to be here. If we could just move a bit further down the hallway, I'd love to show you our recording studio. Now, yes, those blaring signs, that is the tornado warning, but I think we can just go ahead and ignore that to make sure we get to the end of the tour. So if you could just put, yep, here, have these earplugs, put those in, don't worry about that. Okay, perfect. Yes, yes, that sound, now that is the fire alarm, and I also smell the smoke, but I want to get to the end of this tour because it's really important that we get to be there. And so if I could just show you the recording studio, yep, come on in. I know, just the earplugs. Okay. Well, those spiders are, it's actually a whole experiment. We want to ensure that young people have access to learning about insects of all kinds. So I put those there intentionally. And scene. I'm going to pause there just so we can get to the rest of play. But thank you all so much. You were perfect participants. Those were incredible suggestions, and you really put me on the spot. So thank you for playing with me through that scene. That's an example of just a little bit of Zoom improv. So I appreciate y'all jumping into that. I am going to go back. Oh, okay. Hold on here. So sorry. Let me just jump through these. Okay. Sorry, y'all. We got a little lost. Okay. I think we are back on track. While I am sorting through the right slide, I'm going to go ahead and ask you all if I can get 3 volunteers for the next scene. And you're basically going to be doing just what I was doing, making up a scene on the spot. And so I'm going to need 3 people who are just willing to do a 2 to 4 minute scene. It should be really, really short. If you've never done improv, there is no wrong way to do this. Can I get somebody who is willing, and I'm so sorry for jumping through these photos to get back to where I was. Could I get somebody who is willing to be a funder in the scene? So you're going to act out a funder who is considering funding a new project. Cool. I see Milo. Awesome. You're gonna be our funder. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Excellent. And then could I get somebody who is willing to play a youth leader in the scene? You're going to be a young person advocating for change. Go ahead and raise your hand, come off mute, put your name in the chat. I have Milo down as the funder volunteer. And then I just need somebody. Thank you.
I could try.
Awesome. Who said I could try?
EJ.
EJ with an E. Sorry, I can't see.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much, EJ. You rock. Cool. There's no wrong way to do this. And then the last performer volunteer, could I get someone who's willing to be like a direct service provider or an advocate? Anybody willing to be a direct service provider or an advocate?
I'll do it.
Thank you so much. Cool. And what is your name? Sorry, I can't see it on the screen.
Lexi.
Lexi. Cool. Thanks a bunch. Okay, amazing. Thank you all so much. I'm super excited. We're gonna have a blast. Lastly, I just need one person, and this person does not have to perform. You don't even have to come off camera, who is going to serve as our tone setter for the scene. You're just going to help use reactions using your chat box to help set the tone. Is anybody willing to be our tone setter?
So how do you do that?
I'll walk through the instructions for what it is in a moment, but you're just going to be in the background and you're going to essentially be using the reaction button on your Zoom to do different emojis that'll help set the tone.
Okay, I could do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And what is your name?
Destiny.
Cool. Thanks, Destiny. You rock. It is Dungeons and Dragons energy. Yes. This is a very experimental thing. So thanks y'all for bearing with me. Okay. We just did our practice round. Cool. So for this one, we are going to, in a moment, have a short scene where we have our youth leader and advocate who are pitching a new project related to youth homelessness to the funder. Can I get an example of what they're pitching? Are they pitching a shelter, a drop-in center, a youth action board? What might they be pitching to the funder? Anybody can throw it in the chat or come off mute and give a suggestion. A youth shelter. Beautiful. So y'all are pitching a new shelter and you really want to get this funded to this funder, and you can throw in some direct cash transfer as well. I'm here for that. And then the way we're going to engage audience participation is similar to the practice we just did. So anybody can throw in the chat at any point one of these twist prompts. So example, the funder changes the grant criteria halfway through the pitch, or the funder suggests merging the project with an unrelated adult program. Our performers can choose to take or leave whichever suggestions they want, but they'll see some they'll cling on to, just like I did, and incorporate those into the scene. So audience, you did a great job with the last one. Just throw out whatever examples you want. Our tone setter is going to be using these different reactions to set the tone of the scene. So at any point during the scene, you can react on your Zoom using the fire emoji if you want to increase the passion of the scene. Use the icy emoji if you want to slow down or cool the interaction. Use that angry emoji if you want to add some tension, and the laughing emoji if you want to add some humor. Our performers are going to do their best to respond to this. You can throw it in the chat or just do the reaction. We're just going to have that one tone setter though, so we don't have all kinds of emotions going on at once. So thank you so much. And that was Destiny, who's our tone setter.
Yep.
And then lastly, for our performers, I want you all to think a little bit about how you can incorporate your own artistic or creative identities into the scene. If you're a poet, a painter, an athlete, a dancer, how would you approach the scene? You don't have to be too overt with it, but just in your mind, start to think about that, because that's really what we're working to practice today in the movement. I'm a poet and a spoken word artist, so I'm always thinking about how I can bring that into my work. So just have that in your heart as you're playing around or watching. Excellent. And perfect. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get the scene started. Do I have to stop screen sharing so that we can spotlight? I think so. Okay, perfect. Let me just come back to my Zoom and stop share. Okay. Excellent. Perfect. Okay, everyone. So when I say go, you're going to go ahead and start your scene. At a certain point, I'm just going to jump on and say cut. It'll just be short, like 2 minutes. As soon as we start, audience participants, throw in whatever you want into the chat, throw in those curveballs. And remember, our Destiny, our tone setter, feel free to set that tone with emojis in the chat or on your react button. On your marks, get set, take it away.
So you guys came in today talking about a youth shelter. I have a couple funding streams for that, but it depends on kind of like what trajectory you guys are going for. Are you going for like something where like I don't know, medical health, or is it mental health, or is it just a drop in space so they could do backflips and cartwheels and hold on. Yeah, hello. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
If we can have your time real quickly, because this is only going to be like 2 minutes. If you can take your phone call later, that would be wonderful, because I would love to talk about our drop-in shelter, youth shelter. It's going to be a mixture of both mental health and a direct cash transfer program to kind of do a full wraparound services. Thank you for getting off your phone. I appreciate that.
I don't remember. I don't remember what we're here for.
So we're here for the youth shelter that we had previously spoken about. I know that your pill addiction has been really rough on you recently, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
here to talk
okay,
about the
okay.
shelter so that we could support youth experiencing homelessness.
So, what about like youth and homelessness? Like, you sure we just don't want to do like an adult shelter program? Like, they could be 18
So like
plus, you
those
know?
exist for sure. We totally get that. But like we need something dedicated specifically for youth to meet the needs of youth.
Okay, okay.
We already have 3 adult shelters within our area, and we're serving a population of 50% of our adults, where we're serving a population of 1% of our youth right now. And we have
Mhm.
about 300 of our youth in the streets, and only one of our adults is running around naked at the moment. But we
Understandable.
have 5% of our adults
But just ignore
homeless.
Quran. Like
So,
that's fine.
like, what would be the definition of like youth and like young people?
So we really
Like,
believe in the Away Home America definition of youth, which is ages 18 to 30.
see, I believe youth is like, 12 to
Yes, let's go with
13.
12 then, honey. We can go for
And
a
then
youth
like,
shelter between 12 to 30. So then we can like wrap in the family. We can wrap in a woman who's pregnant because when she gives birth, she's a family right there. So you want that 12-year-old, we can have that 12-year-old because that 12-year-old with the current administration is considered a mother. So that's a
right,
family right there. So that youth
right.
shelter,
Quran just pulled
boom.
the fire alarm again. Let's just ignore that.
Oh, okay, yeah. That I was wondering what the little blaring was in the background. I
Yeah,
didn't
that's just
know.
Quran being Quran.
Yeah, okay, okay, yeah, okay. So like, what if like a young person would like
Okay, actually, I
want to
am
put,
starting to see some smoke. Like, let's just take this conversation outside real quickly. We can finish this out here. I just want to distract from Quran biting people right now.
I
Like,
was
we
like, is
can
there a
deal with
kid
that
biting
later.
people?
Well, Quran is an adult. It's just that he
Oh,
has some
And
issues.
scene. Give it up for our performers, everybody. That was fantastic. Amazing, amazing. I welcome snaps, chats. That was incredible. Really, really great work, y'all. Super funny. I'm going to jump back for one last second to the end of our presentation just to do a quick reflection. I know I'm coming to the end of my time, but big, big thank you all. That was really, really fun. And you are natural improvisers. Excellent. Um, Perfect. Okay. I just wanted to do a really quick debrief and invite anybody, either performers or audience members, to share. How did that feel for folks? And how did some of that like language, tone, and storytelling shift the dynamics? Like, was that a relatable experience for anyone? What came up for people? You can put that in the chat or unmute and share.
it was kind of fun acting like someone that has all the pesos to help people, but also like taking into consideration that some, not gonna lie, like some of the things you guys were putting in the chat could happen in real time. Like it reminds me of all the times that the young people in my space actively did like half of those things.
Right?
So
Yeah,
it was so
exactly.
funny.
No, Liv Laugh loved it. Like, I mean, I'm used to Quran just causing terror at all times, so um, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
I was ready
Awesome.
to do so.
I couldn't even follow the chat. I was trying to, but my blindness was just like, okay, I caught half of it. I'm just gonna act ditzy and go with it.
Awesome. You did great. You all did a phenomenal job. I was super, super impressed. And I'm curious for you all performing or anybody who watched, what did this activity kind of like teach us about advocacy in real world systems? Like, was anything relatable, and kind of thinking, especially even what you just said of like, can't keep up with the chaos of the chat, or what came up for us in comparing this to real world situations like that?
I
I'm seeing
mean,
Des. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say Josh prepared us through some improv-ish for our Hill Day. And it did feel a little bit like that, where you get like a random question that can kind of just like throw you off, or you will just have someone on their phone ignoring you. That has happened to me in the middle of a meeting, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Like they clearly don't care.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. Things that like seem completely wild, like theatrical, are happening in these situations, and just having to be prepared to respond to that authentically, but also to get your needs met. So absolutely. I'm seeing Des say that it represents the truth of some funders, the lack of education and support. Phoebe saying it's unpredictable. I completely agree. I'll walk into a meeting like that and just be like, anything could happen. The reasoning for memory loss, cracking up. Funders may need support.
Yeah.
Clueless
Shout out to
funder.
Milo's recovery.
Yeah,
The addiction struggle's real.
Right, we're
absolutely.
back. We're back. Good. I can
Um,
remember some things.
Yeah. And then high stakes decisions being taken as low stakes by people in power. Absolutely. All of those 100%. So I thank you all so much for engaging in that. I know it's like a little bit silly to do improv over Zoom, but you did an amazing job. And I think that was really relatable to what we're talking about. So really the TLDR of what I wanted to talk about today is that creativity and narrative are powerful tools for reclaiming space, disrupting harmful systems, and amplifying marginalized voices. I want to encourage everybody here to be brave, be messy, take up space, and play while you're disrupting these systems. It's essential that we're true to ourselves, true to our creative identities, that we have fun with our comrades while we're in the movement. So that's really what I wanted to invite today into the space. And thank you for letting me play with y'all. Lastly, please stay in touch if you'd like to. Again, my name is Grace. You can follow us at the Creation District on Instagram. This is our website if you want to learn more about our programming, and feel free to email me at grace@thecreationdistrict.com. I appreciate y'all so much, especially our performers today, and I look forward to hanging around with the rest of you later. Bye, everyone.
Hashtag, oh my God, Grace. Hashtag, we love you. I actually have a question for you, if you don't mind asking or answering it
Please.
rather. So what inspired you to get into like this line of work? And then how do you keep yourself motivated?
Really great question. Well, yeah, a couple different things. I think my background, both like passion and lived experience, is in creativity, my queer identity, navigating housing services, and I've always been really passionate about the arts and theater. And I think I've had a really hard time, both in my own world and early on, in kind of like case management or social services jobs, with just a lot of the services. I think really focusing on these kind of facets of people that are, very capitalist, our jobs, our housing, our income, and being really saddened to not be seen in my own identity or to not see others in their identity. So early on, I wanted to come in and just bring kind of creativity and play and the arts into the movement. And for my own spirit, I think to stay in this work, I need to be able to be creative and have fun and play. So I think those are the pieces that brought me in and really keep me going, are the ability to get to bring this sort of stuff into the movement. So thanks for making space.
Thanks. And then, like, another side question, do you have any stories that you can share with us where you utilized improv or arts to help young people?
Great question. Yeah. I mean, all the time, as we kind of do it all the time at the Creation District. I think with improv, one of the first things that got me into my work at the Creation District was my interest in playback theater. If anyone's ever heard of that, it's a form of theater where you're kind of like using theater and improv to kind of rewrite maybe things that have happened or re-explore past trauma. So that's what I kind of started doing in my world and with a lot of the young people I knew and was working with, where we would kind of get together and do improv and take things that have been difficult for us, maybe like past housing situations or kind of traumatic instances, and then use improv to be able to rewrite the ending. What do we wish we would have said in that moment? What do we wish someone would have said to us? And that was like my very first kind of experimenting with the Creation District, and I think was really powerful in my healing journey and really powerful in my peers. So I think that was one of the initial things. And then, yeah, a million examples every day that I wish I could talk about for hours.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate everything that you've done. This was also a really, really nice icebreaker. I'm also like a young person that loves like art and also love like seeing people like create and like live in their art. And like recently with our young people, we've been letting them express themselves more often when it comes to like different avenues of art. So recently like graduation's happening, and so a lot of young people are painting their caps here. And then we're also talking about like how painting can be a way to express emotions, whether if it's angry or like sad or depression. We also end up using music. So we have like a group called Music and Emotions, where like we play songs that represent an emotion. We just made a playlist that ties into every single emotion you can feel of. So like if you're feeling joy, this is the song for joy. If you're feeling sadness, this is your sadness song. So it's really nice to see that there's other places in the world or in like our country that are still utilizing art as a space and a safe space for our young people. So thank you for all of your presence and participation. But thank you so much, Grace. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Milo. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. So y'all, what we just witnessed wasn't just a performance. It was a real reminder of why we're here. So thank you, Grace, for leading us through the tasting with such depth, intention, and courage. Your artistry and storytelling brought the realities of youth homelessness to life in a way that the world alone could never capture. And thank you to each and every one of you who engaged fully, whether through stillness, reflection, or even emotion. That collective energy matters. It fuels the transformation we've been working so hard towards. So let's carry that energy with us as we move into the next part of our day. Alrighty, y'all. So, right, because never say never. Alrighty, so we're going to be taking a 20-minute break to stretch, hydrate, and reset. Please be back here. It says 10 at the hour, but please be back at 12:25 Eastern Standard Time and 11:25 Connecticut Standard Time. Please return back a little bit early so we can get back to do our great things. And we got more powerful and great conversations coming your way, so you don't want to miss it. If you can hear my voice, come back to the call. If you hear my voice, then we gotta show it all. Well, hello everyone. How was your break? How was your stretching, the yoga, inhale, exhale the oxygen, feeling vibe worthy? How's everyone doing? Everyone's vibing? All right, cool. Well, thank you everyone for being here today and staying present with us. We're about to move into a segment that we call Liberation Pause, a space where we pause, reflect, and speak our truths together. This moment is designed to ground us in our shared values and spark the strategies we will continue building today and beyond. So here's how it works. So we're staying in the Zoom. The poll will pop up right on your screen. You'll see 3 questions, and each one speaks to our collective vision for justice. There is no wrong answers. We ask that you answer with, oh, sorry, y'all. We ask that you answer from your truth, whether you are today or wherever you are today. Take a breath, reflect, and click your response will help guide us to how we move forward together. So let's begin. So, first question that we have is, which system needs the most urgent transformation to achieve justice for youth?
Hey folks, I just want to come on really quickly and just let folks know you can also answer with your phone and scan the QR code, and then Chad is going to drop the link in the chat just to make it easier for you to participate.
Yay! I'm seeing a lot of immigration, economics, ooh, housing. Yep, seeing that. Mental health, juvenile justice. Yeah, okay. Alrighty.
All right, looks like we've got about 23 votes in, and looks like no one is currently adding to it. Just FYI. And here, I'll scroll too, just so we can.
Sick. Alrighty. So it looks like our top three is housing, immigrations, and economic justice. Okay. I see you. Alrighty. Now we can move on to our next question. What fuels your commitment to this work? And explain why.
Also, just an FYI, this is completely confidential, so just letting y'all know, feel free to add whatever it is that you'd like.
So far, I'm seeing a lot of personal experiences, hopes for the future, community love and personal experience, preventing anyone in the present or future from having to experience what I did. I felt that. Passion for the youth, lived experience of systemic failure. And for some of you guys who put down some things, if you feel comfortable enough coming off mute and explaining why you've chose this segment or what you said that fuels your commitment to this work. Felt that. Reach out our policies. Justice and trans community, migrant community, the rest of the world, marginalized. Oh my God, go ahead, Natalie Jarvis. You
Hi,
can like,
it's Kira again.
okay, hi Kira.
So just to give a little background on me, I am a Youth Action Board chair here in Memphis, Tennessee. I have, apologies for the noise. I have 11 years of lived experience in homelessness and much more in mental health and economic struggles. Those are kind of some of my top three. I put also immigration as one of the top ones for me at the moment. Um,
Mhm.
but I don't want anybody else to go through what I went through, much like has been said. I'm only 22 years old, but I've spent well over my half of my life with lived experience in quite a few of these issues. And I want to be able to I want to dismantle the systems that are causing this, first of all, so that nobody has to go through it, but with the awareness that, these things are going to keep continuing well into the future unless we can make really great change, that it's easier for the people going through it, and that there are more resources available for those recovering and going through it currently.
Definitely feel you on that. I feel you on that. And I definitely agree with everything that you said because it's like I'm also a young person and I'm turning 23 next month. So like I definitely feel you on the lived in experience and trying to like navigate through that stuff. Is anybody else interested in coming off mute and or talking about what you said? You can also put it in the chat too. So Zara said, with my lived in experience, it fuels me because I personally had a difficult time in the foster care, and I just want to make sure it's easier for folks who are in the same place I was.
I can go off mute.
Wow.
I think I put a few things down. It's a mixture of lived experience, but that's not what's fueling my commitment to it. Like truly what's fueled my commitment to it is the anger at the systems that have put us in this position and also the people that I get to work with. Like um they help keep me motivated and going because it's hard. It's really hard trying to balance like trying to protect yourself and your own well-being, and also advocating for others, especially again, 23, being only a few years removed from crisis, like um trying to balance those two things. Like, I would not be as dedicated to this work if it wasn't for all the people that I've gotten to work with. Like Marcella, for example, definitely like fuels my commitment to this work, and seeing her leadership, and my boss back in Florida, Angela Hogan, like just seeing like people that are so committed and good at this work, like keeps me going.
I feel you on that. That like reminds me of like the people that I work with, because they're like in a sense all the people that were there for me when I was a young person into the program. So it's like it's the same. It feels so similar because I love seeing like the people thrive and do the big work and doing the great things. Um, Andrea said, I'm lumping the emphasis, oh, I'm sorry, the emphasis on immigration and the urgency to talk about it and change things. Definitely agree. EJ said, I have supported from foster care, but never accessed the funding from foster care. I have a foster mom, but that only came at 18, and she's still here at 23. And I could see that. Like you have access to the support, but not the funding. Jasmine said, my whole purpose is to go out of the world and giving more than what was given to me, enjoying giving to my community and helping those with at least such as myself. People before me started the work and I have to continue it, pass it on to the next generation so eventually something gets done. It's like breaking generational curses. Like in a sense, all of us on this call, we're like slowly but surely breaking like generational curses and experiences because we are doing the grounds work. We are out here doing the work. Somebody else said my experience beginning as a street outreach worker at the age of 16, a long time ago now, personally experiencing and seeing what the importance of connections to peers and audits that for open, equitable relationships. These are essential to human beings' development. A human's development, yes. Um, it's definitely important to have those connections, especially with young people. Sick. It's important to have those connections and establish those connections with the young people, and also having them find their own community, finding their own chosen family. So sick. Alrighty, so now we can move on to our last and final question that we have, which is what is your biggest barrier preventing collective power among youth and young adults, systems, and older adult allies? What is the biggest barrier preventing collective power among young youth and young adults allies? There it goes. Mm. So far, I'm seeing a lot of unequal power dynamics, burnout and survival mode, tokenization of youth voice, lack of shared strategy, lack of trust. And as we like are doing these polls, take a moment and think about since these are barriers, what can we do to kind of break down these barriers for our young people? What are ideas that we can utilize to break down these barriers that are preventing collective power among youth, young people, and young adults and their allies?
I think by centering youth voices it stops from the tokenization and, of course, the unequal power dynamics. And then the shared strategy, and I think it would also help with trust between youth and workers.
Definitely agree. Would anybody else like to come off mute? You can also put it in the chat.
Hi, another big barrier is you know, ageism and like repression of the youth voice. We've had in past, very recent past, talks about with our president and certain other politicians discussing like making the age of voting 21. It hasn't been talked about much since, but like it never happened. But like there's a lot of talk about like depowering and deconstructing what power we do have, from some of the older generations.
I agree with you on that, Kira. In the chat, we got Mercy saying making sure basic needs are being met and providing mental health support and emotional regulation to help reduce burnout and survival mode. Eight down, eight down, eight down. And I definitely agree with that because, like, if you think about it, if the basic needs are not being met, then how are we even going to help these people? Or how are we going to continue helping these people? All right. Gerald says different agendas, even with similar big picture goals, have historically made it difficult for youth and young adults to take united action. And I agree. It kind of like reminds me of when like an adult tells a child to stay in a child's place, even though in a sense what's happening now is also affecting the child and they should have a say and everything that's going on. And it also sucks that like even if you are seen to be a young person or a younger person, people don't want to listen to your voice because you're a younger person. Phoebe says, I think also the structure of power is the biggest barrier, even in our individual organizations, are as non-tokenizing as possible and centering youth voice as much as possible. We are unable to make any systemic changes. In my community, HUD policies, funding limitations are the main thing that are stopping us from making the changes we voice. I agree. I agree. I feel you on that. I feel you on that. Where said that? Okay, cool. Yeah. I definitely agree with that because sometimes when you're stuck and confined to a couple of walls within a grant or like you could only do so much because this is all the money that you have and you're only allowed to spend on these few couple things, it really sucks because there's a lot of things that these young people need and we can't get to. Sick. And then the last one, Phoebe said, and how many people in Congress right now have a relevant lived-in experience and under the age of 65? Yup, agreed. Sick. So, thank you all. Thank you all for taking the moment to share your truth. And we'll be looking at this data later as one of the many ways to shape our strategy, not just for today, but as we move forward as a movement to engage in deeper conversations in person in the state of in person in the in-person state of the movement later in October. Yay! So thank you guys for indulging me in our polls, and we're excited to continue on with the rest of our program. So next up, we'll take a short commercial break featuring Point Source Youth's Cash Direct Transfer Funds. So let's roll those clips.
Have you heard about direct cash transfers as prevention? Let's get into it. Direct cash transfers as prevention is a housing stability program that instantly puts unconditional gift cash payments in the hands of a young person with optional supportive programming and other resources to stabilize their lives and get them to the next point of their future.
Without housing security, you are constantly stuck in this survival mode stance where like you're always thinking about right here, right now, what can I do to get through this moment?
When you come from sleeping in a car or couch surfing or outside, just having something that you can stick a key in and know it's yours and have that security, I think that was the best thing for me. You know, I could have it right now with no couch, no bed or nothing, and I would still feel secure because it's mine.
My friend knew I was like she seen it, like I wasn't myself. But she told me as long as, you can find somewhere to stay, that this program could like fund it. I thought it was too good to be true. I thought it was all talk. Like, yeah, okay, people just gonna give me money because I don't know where to go. I never really had help before, and no one ever said what you want here. So it's like it's hard to believe.
They really supported me and were able to guide me through the steps and talk to me, like trying to find creative ways of just keep me housed. And they were really patient with me. The process was really straightforward. They didn't require any paperwork. There was no strings attached. There was no barriers, no checklist to meet. They just trusted my word, and that's all it took for them to support me.
And I was like, my goodness, I found a solution. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I literally cried on my way over there. It was a cry of relief. I was happy telling my kids like, hey, like we got a house. It's not a mansion or anything, but it's better than nothing and it's better than where we're at. They were excited. Just seeing their faces, it brought so much joy into mine.
I was excited to decorate my apartment. I was excited to get towels, to get the little things for the bathroom on the floor. I was excited to get the spatulas, the pots and pans set. I was just so excited to decorate, to just enjoy, make this my space, make it feel like home to us, you know?
Homeless prevention is important because why see people suffer or having to enter the shelter system when we can actually prevent that? Being able to just provide food and transportation for our family, that can help go a long way. By us trying to prevent those from becoming homeless, that can prevent a cycle.
That little help, it really brought so much more like vision of the future, just because it's something that from now on I don't have to worry about. It opened a lot of doors and opportunities for us.
I don't think I would be here without DCT, without the beautiful like blessings and opportunities that it's brought. It has shown me that there is good out there and like I mattered. A piece of me was valued and that I'm here to make some change. And I also don't have to do it on my own.
Just to be able to tell my daughter, like, we're going home. We have our own home. I am grateful for that. The support system they give you along with the cash is what I enjoy more so than the cash, the support system. It gives me freedom to think about my cosmetology license and going forward and being an entrepreneur. I want to have a lot of good things. I want to be a business owner. I want to give back to my community and I want to make a difference.
I just feel peaceful here. Like before, I was avoiding like trying to go home. Now, I don't want to leave my house. I'm happy. I have like control of my life now. Everybody need help. I don't care who you are. Everybody needs somebody. Everybody needs support. Everybody wants somebody.
We all know what's better for us, and having that support, it's really life-changing. And not only like financially, but also the support that DCT brought. Just meeting people that were going through like similar situations as me made me feel like I wasn't alone in this process, and there's a lot of other people around the world that are probably going through the same situations as me.
So with DCTP, it's not just about the cash. It's also about the support that we provide far past just housing.
What's a better use of your money than the youth, those who are coming after you, those who are the future of our economy, our society, our communities? You have to kind of build that in order for us to really have a bright future.
Hi, my name is Amber, and this is my story on how I almost became homeless with my daughter to now having my own home. I was raised by a single mother, and I have 3 siblings. We all grew up in a house together.
My mom was a very hard working mother. She provided for all of us very well. She made sure there was food on the table, clothes on our backs, shoes on our feet. As I got a little older, I would say me and my mom's relationship got a little rocky. And at times, she wouldn't want me in her home. So I would say around the age of 15, 16 is when my stability got rocky. Looking back now, it was me probably going through puberty, getting a big head, thinking that, I was grown or whatever I thought I was at the time. It was very rocky. Like I was going from house to house for a long time. And then I ended up getting pregnant, around 16 I got pregnant. I had my baby at 17 and things got a little harder when I had a daughter because it wasn't just me now, it's me and someone else that I have to take care of. One thing about me, like I've always been a go-getter, a hard worker, an independent person. Even before my daughter came, like since 13, I've been working jobs. I've always had my own income. And when my daughter came along, I was still in school. I worked at Publix on the weekends. And while I was in school, I sold snacks. I tried to do what I can to just provide for us. Like provide diapers, milk, clothes, whatever she needed. I did whatever I could to make sure we had money, but I felt alone at times. Like being a young mother, going through things with my own mother and having my child's father who's young as well, but just wasn't mentally ready for what we had going on. My mother was on the verge of putting me and my daughter out. I was trying to figure out a plan to leave. My plan was not working because in the state of Georgia, you have to have credit. You have to have 6 months bank statements. So just during the entire process, I was just in a negative state of mind, knowing I have to move and I'm not able to get an apartment or qualify for it within the time of my mom giving me to move. We would have been in a homeless shelter anywhere. She did not care. Like I had nowhere else to go. I didn't know what was going to happen next. Is right before I found DCTP. And it changed my life drastically. When I found this program, I thought that they were just gonna send me somewhere, and I didn't expect to receive an entire apartment to myself, furniture, the money to move, like everything. I was so grateful throughout the entire process. Raven was my caseworker from Direct Cash Transfer Prevention Program. She supported me throughout the entire process. We met at a couple different apartment complexes just to see what was best for my daughter and I. At each apartment we went to, Raven was right there with me. She was looking through the cabinets. She was in the bathroom. She was going through the room. She was making sure everything was good for us. So then we found mine and we both just instantly fell in love with it. Like as soon as we walked in, we was like, this is nice. Like we like this. We liked it a lot. So we went back to the rent office and we started talking about, what days I would be able to move in. The entire process, I was in disbelief that it was even going that fast. Like when she told me I was going to receive $3,200 just to move, I didn't expect any of that. I got this apartment through DCTP and I'm so grateful that they helped me with a cash transfer. They supported me with the money. They supported me with just trying to find a best place for me to stay. I was excited to decorate my apartment. I was so excited to, just get mittens like for the oven. I was excited to get towels, to get the little things for the bathroom on the floor. I was excited to get the spatulas, the pots and pan set. I was just so excited to decorate, to just enjoy, make this my space, make it feel like home to us. Just to be able to tell my daughter, like, we're going home. We have our own home. I am grateful for that. DCTP changed my entire life. DCTP gave me a home. They gave me furniture. They helped me drastically. So I know DCTP works from my personal experience. I'm so grateful to be in the space I am in now, and I don't want to lose the position I'm in. So I'm doing everything that I can to stay stable, to keep supporting myself, to make sure that I don't fall behind, but keep moving forward. So I have a business. I am a hairstylist and a lash tech. My daughter's name is Riley Armani, and my business is named after her. The Armani experience. I hope one day that when she grows up, she would like to follow in my footsteps and I can give her my business. My plan is to create a legacy for her. But also, whatever my daughter chooses that she wants to do in life, whatever dreams she decides to have, I just want to support her and what she wants to do in life. And like, I know there's other people out there who has a story like mine or who's going through things that I went through before. So to be able to encourage them with my story, to let them know, like, I was where you were before, but look at where I am now. And you can get here too. Just put your mind to it and do it. So I'm grateful that I get to tell my story and encourage other people just by what I went through.
So, before we head to our breakout rooms and our next segment, I want to ground us in the purpose of our next section, strategizing pathways to reimagining justice for you through collective power. That's the reason why we're here, y'all. Remember that. This isn't just about having a conversation, it's about building together. These rooms are spaces for us to think boldly, to listen carefully, deeply, and to imagine what's possible when we center youth, lived in experience, and community rooted situations. Now, of course, we're going to go over some of our house rules and vibe checks to make sure we're all there together. So remember to be present and participatory. Every voice in the room matters. Yes, that was yours, the dog, the cat, the kid in the background, that young person from down the block around the corner. Every voice matters. Every voice deserves to be heard, and your voice deserves to be heard, whether if it's off mute or in the chat. We're here. We see you. We feel you. Bring curiosity and care. We're here to learn, we're here to challenge systems and uplift each other. It's nice to think about the questions. If you have a question, ask it. It's great. And think beyond what exists. Reimagining justice means naming what's not working and dreaming up what could be when we organize across differences. Just remember that, y'all. We're together and thinking beyond what exists. That's why we're here. Alrighty, y'all. So, the workshops that we have going on today, we have three, which is going to be really, really great. One's following our immigration justice track, which is storytelling and its power to resist oppressive regimes and unite communities centering violence undocumented immigrants. This session will be placed to focus on immigrant communities and the current hardships that they face. It will be facilitated by an Indigenous immigrant with experience in developing mutual aid and generating avenues of connection for their community. This is focused on storytelling and will support the need of cultural awareness beyond our own experiences. The next one we have is Youth Led Innovation Track, which is Elevating Voices, Youth Homelessness in LA. Launched in 2013, the YP2F podcast, hosted by Tony St. James, amplifies the voices of young people with lived in experience to shift narratives and policies around youth homelessness in Los Angeles. This session explores how socially focused media can build support networks, engage diverse audiences, and drive community-led change. Community-led change. And our last one is the Economic Justice Track, which is Pathways to Economic Equity, a strategy session for financial empowerment and stability. Join us for a dynamic session where youth experts and community service providers will collaboratively explore ways to address the challenges of unequal wages, limited job opportunities, and barriers to financial empowerment. Participants will work together to uncover systemic hurdles, share practical tools, and design strategies that will elevate youth voices and foster economic self-sufficiency. Ooh. Yeah, economic self-sufficiency. So whether you're a service provider or advocate or policymaker or young person or someone with lived-in experience, you are a part of the strategy. So as you guys enter your breakout rooms, ask yourself, what does justice look like for youth in your community? And how can we together build that reality together? So let's get into it. We'll be in our breakout rooms from about like 1:15 to like 2:15 to 25. Have a Sorry, y'all. Let's take a moment to spotlight the incredible advocacy work led by Away Home America staff and youth policy team this spring. On March 11th, 2005, and again on May 20th, 2025, not 2005, I'm sorry, y'all, Away Home America staff and the youth policy team stepped boldly onto the Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., advocating to end and prevent youth homelessness as a part of the 119th congressional agenda. But showing up to the Hill isn't about presence, it's about preparation. Before these visits, our team engaged in a rigorous series of trainings and supports designed to equip them with what they need to be powerful, feel strategic, and to have confident voices. These trainings cover critical topics like the Hill Day, expectations and frequently asked questions, lobbying versus advocacy, my bad, meeting preparation and mock meetings, and so much more. Each of these sessions was tailored to ensure both staff and our youth and young adults live with expertise, and the youth policy team members were grounded in their power and prepared to speak their truth to power within the systems we are looking to transform through policy. Now let's hear directly from the voices on the hill. Roll the video.
My name is Evelyn. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a member of the youth policy team at Away Home America, and I'm based in Greater Boston, Massachusetts. First off, the team at Away Home America is incredibly dedicated and very intentional about the impact and this shared commitment to change that we're striving for with New Deal Hill Day Advocacy Day. So for me, a lot of that has been sure personal and professional development, but as well just learning a lot about what it means to build community. I felt that within the organization and also just in my preparation, particularly with queer organizations in Boston, really helping me feel resourced and ready to represent the communities that I'm a part of. Policy shapes who has access to housing, but also stability and safety. So without doing transformative policy work, we are just putting Band-Aids on the systemic barriers that marginalized people and marginalized youth continue to face, and that really perpetuate cycles of homelessness. Policy recommendation 1, invest in BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and migrant-led organizations really resonates with me because it speaks to the power of lived experience and community building to drive real change. Nobody understands youth homelessness better than the people that have experienced it or are most affected by it as a community. And so investing in these lived experience-led organizations is the way to drive actual change. As someone who has experienced housing and financial instability firsthand, I really understand the importance of having access to resources that don't require you to jump through too many hoops. It's very, very important to center youth voices and youth experiences and make sure that housing is about empowerment and dignity and opportunity. The economic justice pillar of the New Deal speaks to me very strongly. I have seen firsthand the benefits of programs like direct cash transfer programs through my work with Bay Cash, which is a direct cash transfer program in Massachusetts, and also being a recipient of these types of services. It's really crucial because financial stability is one of the strongest tools that we have to empower youth and young adults who are in difficult situations. At a very high level, legislation and budgets are moral documents and moral things in the world that exist. So in order to ensure that federal dollars are reaching the communities that need it the most, that are ready to serve each other, we need to be here on the Hill. We need to be talking to legislative offices and making sure that those federal policies and dollars are reaching BIPOC and LGBTQ plus youth and migrant communities. You don't need to be a policy expert. Your voice and your lived experience matter. Advocacy is about learning, coming together to drive real change, and using the strengths that we have to do that. And we all have strengths. Yours are needed more than ever, so come join us on the Hill. Hi, my name is Zara Maliksha. I'm a youth policy team member, and my pronouns are she, they, and I'm based in Portland, Oregon. Preparing for New Deal Day is kind of nerve-wracking, I will be honest. But it's exciting at the same time to be with like-minded individuals who want to fight the same fight you do. So it's also empowering. Policy transformation is important because we are transforming every day. New problems are transforming every day, and as well as new solutions. And especially having youth-led policy work, we can actually get a new perspective from those who are affected most by it. I am the most excited for Policy Recommendation 5 because it offers support to students who are experiencing homelessness and who don't have any access to food, housing, stability, or mental health services. The Family and Youth Services, because I do have lived experience in foster care. I currently get to work in a store for foster youth and provide them brand new clothes as well as educational supports, and we also grant wishes for them. And so I feel like foster youth and youth and family services, we need a lot of support right now. Youth homelessness is an important issue for me because I have seen a lot of youth who are in foster care not have great transitional plans or just any supports, and then they do end up going into homelessness. And I have a lot of peers at my school who are also homeless, and so it's affecting everyone. I feel like you should get involved with Away Home America if you believe in youth-led community building policy, and if you want to make a change, and if you want to inspire others and be inspired yourself. This is the place to be. Participation in policy is so needed right now that if you even have a twinge of feeling like you want to get out there, do it. Because there are things in your community, there are your perspectives that you can share that could help. If you want to go grassroots, if you want to go community-based, if you want to go all the way to federal, I think it's all needed, and everyone can find their spot anywhere in policy work.
Alrighty. So guys, after watching these two videos, I feel empowered because for me, like I know I couldn't have been there because I was hurt, but like if I was there, I would have felt the impact of seeing young people in the forefront on the lines. So, with that being in mind, we have a few in-chat reflections that you could definitely drop in the chat. The instructions: answer from your truth. There's never a wrong answer. Take a breath, reflect, and then click. Your response will help us guide our collective strategy. And let's spark the truth together and build from there. So, our first question that we have is: do you feel youth voices are truly shaping housing policy? And then explain. And then you can take your time and then just add it to the chat. I can answer this one because I have a feeling. I have a feeling about this one. So, like, for me, I do feel that youth voices are shaping the housing policy. However, it's hard because it feels like only certain, in a sense, certain pieces of the wall are weak and they actually would take the time to listen to our young folk. Because a lot of people are narrow-minded and in a sense is still stuck on tunnel vision, so they don't really see nor hear our young people's voices. Um, So like that's how I've been feeling because like yes, our young people are there, and if enough young people say the same thing, someone's gonna see it. But it's the fact that a lot of people are narrow-minded, especially the people in power who can make these changes, aren't really listening to our young people. So it's hard for them to make or to help shape policies. Um, and then what we have in the chat, Gerald said. Sick. Jill said, I'm not clear that any community voices are shaping policy in the face of the current federal action. Eight down, eight down. Sorry if I end up chopping your name. You could send me an email with HR attached to it later. But Katara said, honestly, no, youth voices in general aren't taken seriously, at least in my community. Um, Phoebe said, yes, Milo, that's what I'm afraid of. Phoebe, do you mind coming off mute and talking more about that?
Yeah, it was just like pretty much what you said. Like, I feel inspired by people like Evelyn and Zara who are making their voices heard. And I think that just getting in the door in that way is a on itself. And I want to feel like super inspired and hopeful, but I do have trouble. Like, I fear that it's just like getting in there just to speak at a wall. And it's like not really just because we're giving the opportunity to speak doesn't mean that we're going to be listened to or taken seriously. It's a lot of what people have been saying in the chat. I feel very similarly.
I felt that. I felt that. Thanks for coming off and talking more about it. I'm gonna ask a few other people to come off if they wanted to. So Katara, think I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I do apologize.
It's Katera.
Okay.
Let's see. I hadn't really thought this through before coming off mute, but it's it feels like a culture attitude of youth youth not being. I mean, it's just recently that youth voices are starting to be heard because it's a general attitude of like youth aren't meant to be meant seen, not heard. So it's just now that youth can voice their opinions, but now with that being said, it's slow work for anything that youth say to be taken seriously, for action to be done behind youth goals.
I get you. Definitely feel you on that. Sick. Um, I'm gonna read some more of the things we have in the chat and then go on to the next question. Evelyn said, I think we're showing up and laying the foundation, but we need to be met halfway. I agree on that. Claps down. Andrew said, I agree with you, Marla. Yes and no, we're moving in the right direction. There are communities that are genuinely partnering with youth and creating space for their leadership and shaping housing policy. That said, too many still fall into patterns of tokenism, where youth are present but not truly empowered to influence decisions. Until youth with lived in experience are constantly seen as uh co-strategists rather than afterthoughts. We still have to work to do. Eight down, eight down. Alrighty. So the next question I have for you guys is, what's one thing that makes collaboration easier in your work? Um, and then I will do our model. So I got you guys. Yeah. Um, So for me, I would say what makes collaboration easier in my work would be like taking the time to also get to know the people that you're working with on a day-to-day basis. Cause like if you think about it, we're gonna be together 24/7, 365 days a year, or at least Monday through Friday. Most of my time is going to be with these people. So I would love to get to know these people and know what works, what's their triggers, how can I help prevent their triggers, and so on and so forth. And so some of the things that people are saying in the chat, the community agreements, hands down, hands down, hands down. We also have making space for joy, transparency, and acknowledgement of each partner's agendas. When we return to our common mission and we're still on the same team. Yes, yes. Hashtag thank you guys so much for indulging me in this activity of our chat reflections. I really appreciate everyone's talking and how I appreciate everyone's insight into everything that's been going on into these questions. So now, oh, dating relationships, yeah, same. So next things next, what we got coming up is so we arrived at one of the most anticipated moments of our gathering, our policy forum, the local solutions for prevention. This forum brings together a powerful mix of leaders spanning from policy, grassroots organizing, and direct service, and lived-in experience to unpack what it really means to prevent youth homelessness at a local level. These aren't just experts, they are movement builders, frontline advocates, and system disruptors. Together, they'll explore the critical intersections of local policy, community rooted strategies, and service delivery. And most importantly, how youth voice and leadership must be centered every step of the way. As we dig into this conversation, we will be grounding in three key themes: collaboration, accountability, and action. What can we do today in our communities to ensure youth not only survive, but thrive? And because this work is about all of us, we set aside time at the end for you to directly engage with our panelists during our Q&A. So please get your questions ready, and we're about to get right into it. Alrighty. Sick. Alrighty. So our panelists for today, we have Policy Director Josh Colvin, and we have lived-in expert and youth policy team Evelyn Bagley. Yeah, woo, yeah, woo. So as we're setting that up, Sick. How are you guys?
Doing well, very energized by all the conversations today.
Definitely
I'm okay. The fire alarm just went off in the building, so it's a little chaotic with dogs reacting to that. But we're here.
totally understandable. Well, I hope everything's okay. And
I
we're
wish
about
I could tell you that was a new thing that doesn't happen often.
you're perfectly fine. So, alrighty, let's jump in and get started. So, um, a lot that I would like to talk about I would like to go over a couple of the key themes that we're going to be talking about, which is prevention strategies, policy, service provision, and lived in experience, with the emphasis on youth inclusion and accountability. This will be a great discussion. We have great panelists, and I'm ready to hear all the amazing answers. So, the first question that I have for you guys, for all participants, what does a successful prevention strategy for at-risk youth look like? And how do we ensure it is inclusive for all voices, especially those with lived-in experience? And then Evelyn, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
Sure, thank you so much, Milo. So for me, I think a successful prevention strategy for vulnerable youth needs to be multifaceted and complex, right? Because so are the lives and the needs of vulnerable youth. And in this panel, we're centering local work, and I think that's a huge component of why local work matters so much. It gives us a chance to observe, test, and refine strategies in real time, but the strategies are also based on the realities of real communities. So, what works in one city might not work in another. And we definitely have to be humble enough to let strategies sort of evolve alongside the communities that they're meant to serve. But across the board, local insight is really going to help prevention efforts stay responsive, relevant, and rooted. But that being said, I think there are a few core principles that I just wanted to mention that really do apply sort of across effective prevention strategies. And the first one is authentic youth collaboration. So that means more than asking for feedback. It's about building long-term substantive partnerships with youth who are prospective, current, and past service users. These young people shouldn't just have a seat at the table, they should help shape the table itself. And their perspectives are critical, not only in designing programs, but the ongoing work that needs to be done to evaluate and improve them. Another thing that's key, which is a theme that was mentioned, and I know it's been sort of throughout State of the Movement, but lived expertise leadership. Young people with lived experience of housing insecurity or homelessness know the system very intimately. And so we need active built-in feedback loops where their insights are used to inform how services are delivered, how policies are implemented, and how gaps are addressed. Lived experts shouldn't have to keep reintroducing their experiences either. Organizations really should be structured to learn from them continuously. I think prioritizing accessibility is also key. Prevention definitely should not feel like jumping through hoops, and we need to reduce barriers across the board, especially in things like outreach, resource navigation, data collection, and just eligibility criteria for services themselves. If services are too complicated to access, they're not actually serving. So the goal should be to facilitate ease and immediacy because for many young people in crisis, that need is urgent. Trauma-informed care is also crucial, especially during intake, which is often a young person's first point of contact with the system. That moment really needs to be handled with care, and service providers should be trained to understand trauma, avoid re-traumatization, and really create environments where young people are going to feel seen, respected, and safe as possible. A trauma-informed approach isn't a bonus feature, it's a baseline necessity of this prevention work. And then finally, centering equity. Prevention only works if it works for those most impacted. So that means taking an intentional ongoing look at equity, especially for BIPOC and LGBTQ plus youth. And the three questions we should really be asking when we think about equity are who needs services, who's actually accessing them, and whose needs are being met, whose are being consistently left out.
So, prevention is not one size fits all, and I really view it as sort of a living process that requires deep listening, flexible systems, and shared leadership to help the communities we serve, but especially young people. So, I just think that centering these values helps prevention become not just possible, but much more powerful.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. I liked how you brought up like the authentic youth interaction and like actually like listening to what our young people are saying and having young people of lived in experience be a part of, in a sense, our change. And um like, I definitely agree that if it's too complicated, it's not serving. Because I also think about how young people, if something is too, if a video is too long, if a book is too big, they're not gonna touch it. If they have to jump through 47 hoops just to get into a bed somewhere, they're not gonna want to do it. They'd rather take what is air quotations the easy route. Josh, is there anything that you would like to add to this question?
Yeah, thanks, Milo. I think Evelyn was very thorough in their answer. What I would add from a policy perspective is making sure that all perspectives are at the table while still balancing, centering expertise, centering youth voice. You still having direct care providers as a lens, having the policymakers or people who understand the legislative process also at the table, because what I have what I've observed when we talk about prevention strategy and policy, too often when we look at Away Home America's roadmap and the New Deal, still overarching there's this overarching movement of when we're talking about prevention and policy, it's still falling in the reformative bucket or maybe the transformative edge of reform. And we're missing the mark on I think like separating like the prevention for me should definitely live in the transformative vision of the future. Now the ending of youth homelessness when we consider Away Home America's mission statement, there might be some reformative and transformative edge of reform efforts that need to happen for the here and the now for youth and young adults in crisis. But when we're looking at cutting off the stream from youth homelessness happening in the first place, we need to really lean into that vision of the future that we can see. And I think that's missed too often at the table. And so that's where and you'll on this panel, folks will hear me say this again of just that cross collaboration, and how you can have all those folks at the same table while still centering lived expertise is through trust building, through reciprocity, of trusting each other's unique lens of expertise, and for those of us who don't have lived expertise, checking your ego and setting it aside. So.
Thank you so much. It's like a little reminder that like there's more than just like our young people. It takes more than just our young people saying that they need these things. They need people to back them up. And in a sense, if we are going to back them up, then of course, like yes, we're gonna have to check our ego. Like we don't have the lived in experience. We don't um some of us don't have the lived in experience. Some of us don't know what they go through on a day-to-day basis. So actually listening to what they have to say, taking in what they have to say, but also keeping in mind that there's other voices at the table that also need to be heard. I appreciate you guys. So the next section that we're jumping into is policy and organizing discussions. So to a policy expert, aka Josh, what are some key policy changes that local governments could implement to create a more supportive environment for at-risk youth?
Yeah, thanks for the question. No matter the Congress, no matter the administration, and especially now, given our political landscape, we need to truly just understand what is going on, um, federally, at a state level, at the hyper local level, whether we're talking school board, county government, city government. um, we really need to be in tune with those things that are happening. So, for example, on the federal landscape right now, there's a lot of looming cuts and freezes to the budget that really impact our movement, impact this work, and if those cuts and freezes go through, and some of them already are, it's going to have the potential to take us backwards instead of forwards. So we have to stop and we have to start there. And not to just be doom and gloom on that, I do think there is an opportunity for us to be creative and imagine when we consider the transformative vision of policy. What are maybe some of those low to no fiscal impact pieces that we could do? Rather than just reverting or defaulting to something that's reformative or knee-jerk reacting to everything that we're seeing, and not trusting that process that maybe when we consider the policy landscape, you still have to make even if it's introduced in the U.S. House, it still has to make it through the House and then it has to make it through the Senate. And sometimes there's this ping pong match going back and forth before it gets sent to the president. And I think too often we see it in when something's introduced and we knee-jerk react, and that's detrimental for us because we're not pausing to also think strategically. And in that strategic thinking, asking ourselves, okay, well, how are some of these things getting pushed through, and what's that roadmap? And is there a way for us to follow that same roadmap in a transformative vision, with the policies that we want to recommend, that we want to advocate for? And so I think that's step one before we can even get into what are those things. We have to look at the whole picture, what's being presented and what's happening in real time. I'll yield on that one.
No, you did great. You're great. You're amazing. And I definitely agree with the need to understand what's going on, whether if you are like a policymaker or you're just a regular average Joe. Like you should understand what's going on around you so you could understand how it's going to affect you. Because some people assume that a lot of things aren't going to affect them because it's affecting a quote unquote certain group of people. However, 9 times out of 10, it's normally an overlay for everyone, so it's going to affect everyone. So our next question that we do have, um, would be how could local policy decisions align with the actual needs of youth experiencing homelessness or other risk? What are some gaps between policy and practice? And then Josh, would you mind taking the lead on this question?
Sure. Yeah. From my role and from my perspective, what I see as one of the one of the major gaps, starting there, is too often in our movement and in human rights advocacy movements, broadly speaking. We default to tokenizing, and tokenizing specifically looking like, hey, come share your story. And while story is important and marrying that story with data is also important, if we are not shifting and sharing power to people with lived expertise by teaching them the process and teaching them the system in which they're advocating for, then we're doing them a disservice. And responding to what you just said, Milo, also like teaching our young people and teaching our lived experts, if they don't know already, how to find and interpret legislation for themselves, not in removing this crutch of, and I see it too often in our national advocacy movement of just taking the director of public policy or the CEO's word for their interpretation on the legislation that could be helpful or harmful. Um, and one thing that we do here at Away Home America that Marcella and I have shared with our youth policy team repeatedly is, don't just take our word for it. Like, yeah, we might be giving you an interpretation of the legislation, but also here's the text for yourself. Like, check us on it. And please read it and interpret it for yourself. And that's one training that we do with youth policy team, as well as, and I think it was mentioned this morning by one of our participants who's a youth policy team member as well, but like the mock legislative meetings and giving a real-time look of the worst case scenario of what you could run into on the Hill, where I channel and become the resident asshole for a couple hours while I just grill our team with, again, those worst case scenarios. And 9 times out of 10, the worst case scenarios don't happen. And there have been those 1 times out of 10 that it has happened. And the feedback from our team has essentially been, thank you for preparing us for the reality that we could potentially face. Getting cut off in a meeting, getting, hearing all this horrible language that is not okay. And like, how do you correct language in real time of a legislative staffer and still redirect to get to your ask? Like, that's part of the policy process. And I think too many of our organizations in the movement do a disservice to youth and young adults with lived expertise in that, and that's the biggest gap.
Definitely. I definitely agree 110%, and I definitely think that like what you guys been doing, especially you and Marcella has been doing at Away Home America, preparing your staff for these hard hitting questions or conversations or actions that could happen. It's nice to be prepared because you can never know what's going to happen. You can't see into the future. We aren't magicians, like someone said in a previous session. So we don't really know what's going to happen. So it's nice being prepared and like to know the knowledge than to not have the knowledge. Evelyn, is there anything you would like to add to this question?
Sure, and just definitely that resonates as a member of the youth policy team. It's been really impactful to have that professional development around the policy process and the gaps that exist there. But in terms of other gaps sort of between policy and practice, I think housing first is widely recognized as an effective prevention and stabilization strategy, but local policy decisions often fall short when it comes to youth and young adults. We all know that resources for people experiencing homelessness are already limited, but youth tend to be especially vulnerable and receive even less support. They're more likely to fall through the cracks and often face systems that aren't built with our unique needs in mind. So I think another great way to close that gap is by centering youth advisory boards or YABs throughout every stage of decision making, like Josh was talking about, really being a part of processes and not just one point of a process. So that means treating youth not just as people to consult, but as core partners and leaders in the work. So around YABs, that could look like engaging youth across the entire data lifecycle, from design and collection to protection, reporting, analysis, and action for specific projects. But also maybe structuring feedback loops that are consistent, compensated, and actually used to shape services and systems. When young people with lived experience are involved in processes, policy becomes more responsive, more ethical, and more grounded in our real experience. I also think like a policy area that's very important is just providing flexible financial supports for youth at risk of homelessness. And two important examples include housing vouchers. So right now, the Foster Youth to Independence, or FYI voucher, is the only federal housing voucher specifically for youth and young adults. So it's a very important resource, but the eligibility criteria are too narrow. So through some of my work on the youth policy team at Away Home America, I've supported advocacy for the Homes for Young Adults Act, which would expand that FYI eligibility to include more youth, such as those who are single, parenting, or who've experienced systems involvement outside of foster care. So local governments can really help by aligning housing policies with this more inclusive model. And I see that Josh has dropped the link to that text in the chat for those that are interested. And then the other thing is that there are also direct cash transfers. So guaranteed income pilots have shown real promise, and we've heard about some of those today. But they're really offering young people the autonomy to direct resources toward their most urgent needs. These programs are often paired with wraparound supports, but at their core, they reflect a critical value, trusting youth to know what they need. So at Away Home America, we're working to bring this to the national level through the Youth Homelessness Guaranteed Income Pilot Project Act, or YGIPA. And Josh also dropped the link for that. But I would just say the bottom line is that local policy must be flexible, grounded in lived experience, and designed with, not just for young people. So when we're really incorporating youth voices meaningfully, we can shape systems that are meant to serve youth and really start to close some of these gaps between policy and practice.
Thank you so much. I definitely agree that they have to be more flexible when it comes to especially the finances, because not for nothing, we never know what's going to happen. And I also agree that it does seem like a lot of their like requirements to in order to get these fundings are little to no like really narrow-minded to the point where it's like I have this young person dealing with all these things and literally everything that they're going through, they can't even get the finances before because you said they can't have this, and this going on. So in a sense, it's excluding the people that they actually need to serve. Because it seems like they just want to do the 1%. And the direct cash transfers, yes, we love a direct cash transfer. I know for us, for the organization that I work with, we don't have the ability to do a direct cash transfer. However, we've been able to do like gift cards to like local spots that youth like to eat at, or Visa gift cards that could be utilized anywhere to get toiletries or things like that. And also working on donations so they don't have to worry about spending money for these objects and items. So the next question that I do have for you guys, so thank you so much. In what ways can grassroots organizations ensure that youth are involved in the process of designing prevention programs? And how can we engage youth and young adults with lived-in expertise in leadership roles? And then Evelyn, would you like to start us off?
Absolutely. So I think there are some really good best practices out there for engaging youth and young adults with lived expertise in leadership roles. The first thing I always mention is fair compensation. Youth deserve to be paid for their time and insights. So, kind of like Milo was just talking about, this could mean stipends or gift cards for things like focus groups or contracts that are above minimum wage, employment for sustained involvement in projects. But if we say that we value lived experience, we need to treat it like the expertise that it is. I also think creating real pathways to leadership is super instrumental. I started out as a young person using direct services, and then I became a peer advocate, a programs coordinator, and a communications coordinator. And from there, I was able to transition into doing technical assistance, consulting, and now project management, working on local, state, and federal efforts to prevent and end youth homelessness. But that kind of growth was only possible because there were real opportunities to stay in the field and build over time. So I would say creating those pathways really matters because people like myself are out there really ready to lead if given the chance to grow. And another thing is just don't underestimate mentorship. Mentorship can make all the difference for both personal and professional development. So I think it's especially important for youth who want to move into lived expertise leadership to have mentorship, whether that's informal or formal or from maybe a group of people as opposed to just one individual. But having someone or a team in your corner really helps you imagine what's possible, what's next, and helps you to navigate the systems you're trying to change.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. I like thinking about it because I too was also a young person in a program and I was just running around at dance parties and living my best life. And then going from a young person, like enjoying the program and being involved in the program. And in a sense, being that young person, the ideal young person for programming. And now having the avenue to start or be a part of the youth advisory board. And then going from being on the youth advisory board to speaking at conferences and then eventually getting the peer navigator position that they have and now being able to be in the age range of the young people that we serve while also serving them in a way that I can because we're the same age. And then Josh, is there anything you would like to add to this question?
Yeah, I think just simply here, just highlighting what Away Home America has done for a while, like starting with the creation of the New Deal to End Youth Homelessness, and going back to how I started with this panel of just you have folks with different lenses of expertise at the table co-designing the policy priorities, co-designing the roadmap to the New Deal with our 5 pillars, with the actions. And To this day, we do that with our policy agendas, both with the YPT, with our federal policy agendas. Marcella and I were in Raleigh, North Carolina at the beginning of this week, starting that process with young people in the state of North Carolina for the needs that they have in the state of North Carolina. And there may be some similarities from our federal policy agenda. There may not be, but it will be in alignment with the New Deal to End Youth Homelessness, and going back to just really understanding the landscape in your locality, in your state. Again, can't be said enough, but just teaching the process and centering youth and lived voice, lived experience through your internal processes. Because if you're not doing it internally, you're not going to do it externally.
Definitely agree. Alrighty, so the next question that I have for you guys, we're jumping into another section, which is service, provision, and lived-in expertise. So the question that I have for you guys is, how could service providers, policymakers, and organizers work together to create a seamless system of support that extends beyond just housing to include things such as education, mental health services, and workforce readiness? And then Evelyn, would you like to start us off?
For sure. So I think cross systems collaboration, like we're talking about here, really works best when there are consistent and meaningful touch points, places where relationships are built and systems actually talk to each other. So a few key strategies around that. I think a lot about case conferencing. So in settings like intake and coordinated entry, it helps to hold regular cross systems meetings that bring together stakeholders like case managers, school homeless liaisons, benefits offices, your referral organizations, and even lived experts. These meetings really allow folks to work through high priority cases together rather than in silos. I think more broadly, building community is always going to be very key here. So, having a visible, consistent presence in the local community makes a difference. And one where stakeholders come together, not just for work, but for shared events and workshops, or even just moments of joy and connection. That's really where trust grows and it makes services more effective, and also makes partnerships smoother. I also think resource sharing, we all know that no organization can do it all alone. So, not just leaning on the partnerships we already have or trying to preserve the partnerships we already have, but forming new partnerships with others to expand resource networks available to young people. So that way, if one program doesn't meet a particular need, another might, and that handoff can be more seamless when the partnership is already in place. Another innovative solution I've seen is shared resource dashboards. So some youth action boards have actually piloted platforms where service users can leave feedback about programs and services. So you can sort of think of it like Yelp, but for social services, kind of including metrics that actually matter to youth, like cultural responsiveness, accessibility, or LGBTQ plus inclusion. So these dashboards or any sort of public facing feedback that you can share are going to help young people make more informed choices and also encourage programs to stay accountable. So I think making sure that collaboration is intentional and, like we've been saying, youth informed, we can really start to make the system feel less like a maze and more like a map that has clear paths, useful tools, and most importantly, people walking it alongside you.
Definitely agree, Evelyn. It's amazing. And then Josh, would you like to add anything to this question?
Yeah, I think just you're re-emphasizing reciprocity and trusting one another, but that doesn't come overnight. So just like we're not going to I think the Homes for Young Adults Act and YGIPA that Evelyn mentioned, right? Though those were introduced in last Congress, reintroduced this Congress, and on average, this Congress aside, it takes at least 3 or 4 reintroductions of a bill to be passed into law, minimum. And just like that process can take long, so building trust can also take a while, right? And so we need to give ourselves patience and persistence and have reciprocity for one another and our respective lenses of expertise to authentically work together. Just like on any team, I'm a lifelong team sports guy. um, every person on the team has different skills, and when you're combating one another and you have that infighting with one another, whether it's a team, a sports team, or a policy agenda making team, if we are all trying to compete with one another, we're not going to win, right? We're not going to be able to have that finished product that we can then collectively advocate together. And it goes back to putting our egos aside. Um, and that goes beyond just that internal team too. Once you start working with other folks and advocates and organizers to try to push whatever we are collectively working towards together, we also have to put our check our egos at the door too when working with other organizations to really understand that if we truly want to end and prevent youth homelessness, that we all have our unique positions as one broader team. So.
Thank you so much. The next question that we do have is for our lived in experience expert. So, Evelyn, from your perspective, what are some of the most effective prevention strategies you've encountered, either as a recipient or recipient of services, or through your advocacy work?
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll speak to this in two ways. So first, from my own lived experience receiving services, I would say one of the most effective prevention supports that I encountered was the National Runaway Safe Line. But it might seem simple. I think resource hotlines like that one can play a very critical role, especially for young people navigating complex or dangerous situations. So there were a few things that made it work particularly well for me. The first is that I think multimodality was key. So the SafeLine offered a phone line, an online chat, and a website with an easy exit button for privacy and safety. And that kind of flexibility just made it a lot more accessible to access that program. It wasn't just based on personal preference, but also because of mental health needs and physical safety concerns that I had at the time. There was also collaborative communication with the direct service providers. So a hotline worker explained that I could give just my first name and state to remain anonymous or provide my full name and address if I wanted to initiate a mandatory reporting process. And I share that because that's a great example of having clarity and a consent-based approach. And that's what really made all the difference for me accessing that service, because it gave me options and a sense of control during a very difficult time. And then also just like building from my own direct service and advocacy work, I think there are some broader principles that consistently strengthen prevention efforts. So transparency, being clear about what you can and can't do, sharing those limitations, but also sharing opportunities so that youth can get an accurate picture of what they could be involved in and what is available to them. And then resource navigation itself should really just be collaborative, where both the young person and the provider are exploring options side by side and not from opposite ends or just one person or the other. I also think empathy is very, very key, and we've talked about this a lot over the past 2 days. But not just empathy based on what we have in common, but empathy that's open to what you don't know. So that's a place where intersectionality comes in, and recognizing lived experience, especially when it's not your own, is key to building trust and doing the work well. And then I just want to uplift again trauma-informed care. Prevention definitely has to start from a place of trust. A young person in crisis is very vulnerable, yes, but they still have autonomy. So respecting that is going to be the foundation of any effective support system.
Thank you, Evelyn, so much for going into your story a little bit. I really appreciate that. Inspiration. Yes, you are. Another question that I have for you guys is how can we ensure the voices of young people with lived-in experience are meaningfully incorporated in the development and implementation of prevention programs? And then, Josh, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I I can't emphasize enough having lived experience at every step of the process. So, again, a lot of national organizations in our movement will bring folks in towards the end or ask for input after on legislation that they're looking to endorse or whatever. I think we're doing a great disservice if we don't include lived expertise from step one. And that doesn't mean that folks will be able to be involved in every step, but giving them the opportunity to be involved in every step. I think, for example, with our youth policy team, we have ad hoc teams. I just with the nature of how the youth policy team is designed with our contracts, they have limited hours per month, so that is a limitation. But for being involved maybe in every step of the process, but still being authentically transparent in our weekly YPT meetings. If folks aren't, on a certain ad hoc team that's on, step three of the process or whatever, and still informing and bringing that back to the full YPT is very crucial. And I think we need to see that more movement wide. So just succinctly bringing folks in from start to finish, or at least authentically informing folks of every step and what's going on. And not just saying, "Hey, we did all this work, we did this policy agenda. Here's the thing you're going to advocate for. Come tell your story." I think we've really screwed that up as a movement. So.
I appreciate that. And then Evelyn, is there anything you would like to add to this question?
Sure, yeah, I definitely want to plus one on everything that Josh said. And I also think when we're getting lived experience insight, we just want to make sure like we're going beyond one-time input and moving toward ongoing intentional feedback loops. So that might look like surveys and feedback tools that, like Josh was saying, really need to be built into programs from the start and not just as an afterthought. But more importantly, the data needs to go somewhere. So you should know how their feedback is being used and really have opportunities to see the impact of their input. And that's what is going to build trust and accountability. I also think that peer navigators and youth staff roles play a key part of this. One of the most powerful ways to integrate youth voice is, as we've been talking about, hiring young people with lived experience, but especially I think paid peer roles can be very impactful. I served as a peer navigator at Break Time, which is a transitional employment nonprofit for youth experiencing homelessness, and that's based in Boston. But in that role, I helped youth fill out employment applications and worked with the organization to develop a resource map connecting young people to wraparound supports like housing, mental health care, and financial resources. But because I had lived experience, I was able to build trust with participants in ways that made services more approachable and relevant for them. So that trust really is key, not just for engagement, but for long-term outcomes. And finally, I've been hearing this a lot, love to hear it at State of the Movement, but I think it really is true. nothing about us without us. So this can't just be a slogan, it's our framework for justice. And so we want youth involved from idea to rollout to evaluation. So they're not just present, but really empowered in this work.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. Alrighty, so now we're coming to the best part. It's like, nah, not the best part, but a closing segment. So one of my final questions that I have for you guys is what is one actionable step local governments and communities can take immediately to improve prevention efforts for at-risk youth? And then we could start with Josh, yeah.
Yeah, I think um, so every local government is going to have nuanced needs. We'll start there. So actually would like to reverse the step and put the onus on each one of us here at State of the Movement that's listening. um, Direct service providers, advocates, policy government affairs experts, youth and young adults with lived expertise. We all need to work together to assess our local landscape together. We then need to develop thoughtful policy proposals together and start small. You don't have to have five, six, seven recommendations. You can have one or two. And then take that work that you did together and advocate with your local government leaders. And it was mentioned yesterday about city council, but we can't overlook county commissioners, county government. We can't overlook school board, especially when we're talking about preventative strategies. So we need to look at every single level of government. So I'll stop there.
And then Evelyn, if you would like to jump in.
Thank you. I think one actionable step local governments and communities can take right now is engaging youth advisory boards or lived experience experts and doing that early and often. If you already have a YAB or lived expertise group, take a look at your policies and procedures. Are youth with lived experience actually involved in decision making, or are they just being consulted at the end of the process? And then if you don't have a YAB or a lived expert group yet, partner with direct service providers to reach youth who are ready to lead. Again, that lived experience is not a bonus, it's essential. I think another immediate step is to make resource navigation more transparent. So if your case managers or organizations already have referral networks or resource maps, don't keep them internal. I would say instead create and share those multimodal resource lists. They could be flyers on community bulletin boards, posters in direct service buildings, or even, QR coded, color coded digital directories that are easy for youth to navigate on their phones. And then finally, just centering equity as a practice, not just a policy. Even as federal language shifts around things like DEI, we have to hold the line on our core values like transparency, empathy, and collaboration. So I think, as we've highlighted, prevention isn't just about programs, but really building these systems that are going to reflect dignity and humanity for the youth that we serve.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. Thank you too, Josh. Thank you both for being great panelists for this great discussion. If anyone in the chat, we have time for 1 to 2 questions. If you guys would love to talk to our lovely panelists, we can do that now. Feel free to either come off mute or type your question into the chat. Good signal. Okay, cool. So a question that I see in the chat is how are you grounding your prevention strategies in the real day-to-day experiences of those most impacted, particularly youth and families, and communities of color? And what's one example of local solution that has actually shifted outcomes? And then whoever would like to answer first, go ahead.
Yeah, I think goes back to something mentioned earlier of just paying attention to everything that's going on and really understanding how those things are interconnected. And that this hasn't shifted outcomes yet. This might cause more problems. But one thing that I want to mention, especially in light of what's going on in LA right now. Um, Something that I tried to fight starting back in 2020 at the local level when I was living in Dallas. At the time, there are a lot of curfews, especially for youth and young adults, popping up right now. There's a curfew in general for parts of LA right now. Um, One thing that is too often missed when we start talking about youth curfews, there's one in certain neighborhoods here in DC right now too, is the traditional language that comes along with a youth curfew, putting onus on the parent, and not having policymakers stop, take a step back and say, wait a minute, what about a youth or young adult who doesn't have a place to go? And criminalizing folks for quote unquote loitering because of your imposed curfew. I think that's a real life example at the hyper local level in a lot of our communities, that needs to be shifted. So if you are on here and you live in a local community that has a youth curfew imposed, advocate with and educate your city council members on a different perspective that they may not have. So
And then Evelyn, do you have anything you'd like to say to this question? If not, that's okay.
Sure. I think yesterday, one of the sessions we talked about doing advocacy in a professional capacity and then in your personal time, in your local community. And this question really had me thinking about what I do even outside of work, and really being plugged into different spaces, as simple as your local library or a co-working space. And there's a lot of great work going on in spaces like that. My community has a local trans alliance, and they've been doing some great work that is goes from mutual aid for housing, and they have a grant for freedom of movement from unsafe living situations to help people break their leases. It really inspires me because we have to be doing this work at all levels, so the policy level, all the way to, doing whatever we can to help our neighbors. And I also really appreciated the session today, talking about storytelling. And like Josh said, just being open-minded and aware to other experiences in your community. And as much as you might know about community around you, understanding that there are things that you also just don't know yet. So I think for everyone, I would just recommend staying open to new ideas, new partnerships, and new sources of knowledge, even when it challenges what we think we know, because that's, I think, the main leverage point for shifting outcomes on a bigger scale.
Thanks again. Oh my gosh, our panelists did amazing. I would say, can we get a round of applause? But it's gonna be hard to clap. So you guys get parties. So thank you so much, Josh and Evelyn. Everything that you guys have said on this panel today has resonated in my heart and with the group of people that we are thriving here today with. So thanks again for everything that you have done. Continue doing the great work, the boots to the ground work, and thriving in this world of ours. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. So, as we begin to close out our time together, we're honored to end on a note of transformation, justice, and forward movement. Please join me in welcoming Erin Cloud, she, her pronouns, from the Civil Rights Corps, a powerful advocate and challenge maker, working at the intersection of youth justice and systemic reform. In this 15-minute closing session, Erin will share the vital work her organization is doing to support young people navigating the court system with a sharp focus on permanency because every young person deserves stability, dignity, and a future beyond the system. She'll speak to the real life impact of their efforts and the outcomes they're advancing, and how each of us, advocates, community leaders, and allies, can take part in reshaping what justice looks like for our youth. So this is a message you can do what you. This is a message that you don't want to miss. So please join me in welcoming Erin Cloud to the virtual stage.
Hi, everyone. I'm just gonna get my screen set up really quickly, then I'll be ready to go. All right. I just want to say first and foremost, I am super grateful to share space with you all and want to give a special shout out to Marcella Middleton. And honestly, at this point, Des also, who's fielded about 30 different emails of me asking the same question, who has helped bridge and make these conversations possible. My name is Erin Miles Cloud. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an attorney at the Civil Rights Corps in their Families Project. But before working here, I have done many things. I was a public defender at the Bronx Defenders, where I represented parents in child welfare proceedings. I was a co-founder of Movement for Family Power, an abolitionist organization working to end the policing of families. And I am also a mama of two beautiful children. And I myself exist within a family that has experienced family policing in many, many, many forms. But what I'm here to talk about today is Civil Rights Corps and some of the work and movement efforts that we are trying to do to fight for permanency. And when I would love to pause there with that word permanency. And I hope that I have permission from you all to shift from the word permanency to what it really means to us, to me, and honestly, my community, which is looking to build freedom, joy, and connection. Freedom, joy, and connection are ideals that are deserved and preserved by queer, Black, poor, and marginalized families. I want to reimagine the conversation about youth safety and permanency in one that is rooted in intergenerational exchange, wisdom, and is also not afraid of tension. I also want to clarify that in this presentation that I'm going to give a lot of updates on the work that we're doing, but these are updates that I'm sharing, and I will have a link at the end that are open for feedback, participation, critique, and imagination. So I really do hope this is the beginnings of a conversation and that what I am sharing will have full engagement, participation. And when I say participation, I mean critique, imagination, and again, feedback. So what are we up to at Civil Rights Corps? Civil Rights Corps is a civil rights organization. Historically, this organization has worked on ending cash bail and the criminalization of poverty. In our families practice, we realize that the criminalization of poverty and civil rights are ones that are often not taken by other civil rights organizations in the family court proceedings. And so one area that CRC, in listening to movement leaders, have been told that is necessary to work on is the right to hold systems like the judiciary accountable. And the way that many people from communities are holding judicial systems accountable is through court watching and organizing. What we know is that dependency courts wield some of the greatest power in our society, determining whether to separate families, and the stakes are life defining. And so at Civil Rights Corps, we are fighting for a qualified First Amendment right to access these proceedings. Because secret proceedings usurp power from the most impacted communities. The judiciary is accountable to us in community, especially in places where we elect those judges. And the more education that the public gets about the institutions, the more that they can demand institutional and system changes. Collective observation is an important form of democratic participation. Those who are most underrepresented in positions of power are the people who are most likely to be ones shut out from these proceedings. So we have filed a lawsuit in North Carolina to vindicate the public's right to access the dependency court proceedings, which was necessary because us as civil rights organizations and lawyers were not able to view those proceedings. Imagine that. Civil rights lawyers are hearing that there are potential constitutional claims, and we cannot observe those proceedings in order to ensure that the court is acting in accord to the Constitution. We also know that North Carolina is a best interest state where children's voices are not necessarily advocated for directly. And we've heard many deeply concerning reports about the functioning of dependency systems. And yet we are not able to get through the doors to even observe and validate those claims, even though we know that the people are the truest form of validation. Families, communities, and youth organizers have a qualified First Amendment right to observe these proceedings. But I want to be super clear. We're not fighting for an absolute right to attend all proceedings. Juvenile and parent confidentiality can trump access for the community. But what we are seeing and what we are experiencing is that civil rights organizations, community members, young people are being kicked out without any particularized findings, without following the law, without following the First Amendment strictures and rules and procedures. And we do not think that that is right, and we do not think that is fair. And it's not for us to even say that we think it's right or it's fair, but community members that we're working with have absolutely suffered from this. The next project that we're working on is called the Right to Hug. And I encourage anyone to go to www.righttohug.org to learn more about this project. Civil Rights Corps is partnering with families and young people to challenge the elimination of family contact that's happening in jails. We know that family separation is a strategy that is pushed out through many systems, and many family members, young people, are not able to visit their parents, their siblings, and we've sued in Michigan and are looking into California, Colorado, and Oregon, and other places. We believe that kids have a right to hug their parents, and we know that the systems of deportation, of jails, of prisons, and dependency systems intersect, and that kids who have parents who are locked up are even more likely to lose their families to these systems. If you're interested in connecting about this issue, there'll be a survey at the end, but you can reach out to Sarah Water, and I will make sure y'all have that at civilrightscorps.org. Our third big issue, which is one I know that you all have talked a lot about, is challenging housing-based separations. We know that housing is a human right. Unfortunately, our systems don't always ensure that that happens, nor do they always say that that is a truth or valid. So we're working to challenge the root cause of family separations, which include unstable housing. What I show here is that the area that we're working on in local collaboration and community is in Baltimore. This map that you see, these red spots indicate the hot spots of evictions, and they're the same hot spots of family removals and separations. It's also in Baltimore, where I'm from, called the Black Butterfly. It's the neighborhoods where all of us grew up. It is the neighborhoods where all of us are seeing evictions. It's also the neighborhoods where we're all seeing our families separated. And so we are hoping to challenge housing-based family separations, and to do this and build with advocates, organizers, and communities to ensure that families and young people all have access to housing. We believe that is joy, that is freedom, that is permanency. Right now, we're doing deep place-based work in Maryland. And so if you know anyone in Maryland that wants to work on this issue, please do let us know. You're also welcome to follow the organizers on the ground and communities in a network called Maryland Families Together. On Instagram, it's at Maryland Families Together. Last, we're excited to be in community with movement leaders who are organizing and fighting the criminalization of youth and families broadly. And so on this screen, you'll see at Movement for Family Power, and they have movement syncs. You can go on their Instagram, you can go on their website, and we are in collaboration and community with Movement for Family Power's movement syncs. These are open to anyone across the movement who wants to talk about issues, workshop issues, think through, critique, be in community on resisting and fighting the system. Next, we are also in community with the movement that is organizing and working young people who have been experienced incarceration, deportation, the dependency court system organizing together to uplift their voices and talking about the strength of these state systems and the way that these state systems are separating families. I encourage everyone to follow Stolen Children's Month. If you're not already following Stolen Children's Month, to get involved. And we are excited about young organizers and people that are coming together in this action, and organizers like Ashley Albert, and want to uplift their call to action. And I know I dropped a lot of knowledge, work, ideas, because there's so much to be done. This is the quote unquote new permanency. This is freedom building. This is joy reclamation. This is transformation for what we deserve. And we want to hear from you. I'll drop in the chat a survey that you all can engage with, and also my personal email, erin@civilrightscorps.org. We can't do this without community. We can't do this without each other. And I hope to hear from people past this day and this moment. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's always a pleasure to have amazing speakers. So thank you so much, Erin. You're amazing. And thank you for all the work that you've been doing and keeping us posted. You will be hearing from me. So guys, definitely look at what Erin's dropping in the chat. Just definitely do that. Just letting y'all know.
I'm gonna drop some IG in the chat and some social too in the chat, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then don't forget to take the survey, y'all, because we love a good survey. We love a good survey here. So thank you so much, Erin, for those powerful words and unwavering commitment to youth justice. Alrighty, y'all. It's about to get crazy. Saying that. But now that we move into our final moments of our time together, we're honored to close with a performance from someone who embodies the spirit of resilience, healing, and transformation. Please join me in welcoming Chat, she, her pronouns, a veteran adult learner, and mental health advocate, currently pursuing her degree at Howard University, because education matters. As a published author and poet, Chat uses her voice to explore identity, growth, and the power of vulnerability. Sorry, y'all. Through her YouTube channel, A Growing Caterpillar, she shares her personal journey navigating life with bipolar disorder, offering a raw and real look at balancing mental health, academics, fitness, and self-discovery. Today, she brings us a piece rooted in truth, transparency, evolution through poetry and in song. We're calling this segment The Wings of Revolution. So let's give our full energy and attention to Chat.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chat. I'm so honored to be here with Away Home America. I chose to participate because not only do I believe in the mission, but because I'm a person who's faced instability and not knowing exactly where home is or was at the time. And this space allows people to see you, protect you, and remind you that you're worthy of the joy that you deserve. You're still here, you're beautiful, and that matters. So I'll be doing this piece. Why you wanna fly, blackbird? You ain't ever gonna fly. Why you wanna fly, blackbird? You ain't ever gonna fly. Your mama's name was lonely, and your daddy's name was pain. And because of you, I was trapped inside myself, couldn't say nothing to someone who I knew could help. All this was deceit and hurt. And because it was you, it made it worse. I still love you like I do, but what you did to me is on my mind. Felt like you took the innocence right out of my hands like a crime. Now I'm looking at God like this is already in your plans. I understand. But now my cards have been dealt. Ain't the best cards, but the game has already started. Can't have a blank look or to think I'm retarded. This should have been released a long time ago because it's been on my heart. I forgive you, but I never forget the things I've let happen. The things I've done is all because of what you did to me under the sun. I'm trying to get to my mind, but my mind is already spun. Now I have to finish what you've made me begin. This little bit of dirt I have to clean off my chin. And y equals mx plus b can't solve this one. I guess only me and God can solve this one, and I guess I'm done. The best thing about I've already won, sick of being the victim, the patient, or the girl who has bad concentration. I want to be done, but I can't finish. This is why it's my first chapter, and sometimes my stories don't always have a happy ever after. And they call you Little Sorrow, 'cause you'll never love again. So don't you wanna fly, blackbird? They say you're not gonna, but I believe that you're gonna fly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chad. Beautiful voice, beautiful voice. Is there anything you would like to say to the crowd, to your homies, to your beautiful audience?
I'm an open person. I should be posting videos on my YouTube soon. I'm currently in school right now. So that is thank you for the compliments in the chat. Sorry. I'm in school right now, so that's like a really big thing for me. So I'm going to eventually show it, but it's called A Growing Caterpillar. I can drop my Instagram. It'll be attached to my Instagram and everything else like that in the chat. But besides that, thank you all for coming. I've seen like so many different and read through so many of the different speakers and stuff like that who have spoken. And like, you guys are amazing and intelligent. And everyone who's here, like, you just make things like so much easier to like see and understand and honestly make a change.
Thank you so much for being here. Your voice, amazing. 10 times down, amazing. Another poet? Yeah. Come through slam poetry. We love an open mic. So thank you guys. Thank you all for joining us virtually over the past few days. We recognize that your time is valuable and that your work in this movement is ongoing. We deeply appreciate your presence, your energy, and your commitment to strategizing towards ending and preventing homelessness for all. We'd like to invite you to continue this critical conversation with us in person on October 22nd and 23rd in Chicago, Illinois. This gathering will give us the opportunity to dig deeper into the work, strengthen relationships, and encourage in-depth, face-to-face dialogue. So for more updates on this event and future opportunities, please follow our website and subscribe to our newsletter. The State of the Movement is designed to grow and shift alongside our collective work. We'll continue conveying in June and in October every year. We hope to see you and I hope you'll consider joining us. Oh, sorry, y'all. Regularly as we build momentum and deepen alignment across the movement. To stay informed, follow us on social media and check the events page on our website. If social media isn't your thing, we encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter for the latest updates and opportunities to stay engaged. Thank you again for your dedication and your voice. We look forward to continuing this amazing journey with you. And now we invite you to take the next 5 minutes to connect, network with one another, whether it's dropping a hello in the chat or exchanging contact info or sharing a reflection. This is your time to build relationships and learn more about the incredible people doing this work alongside you. To help foster ongoing connection, we will be sharing a Google Doc spreadsheet in the chat. Feel free to add your name, email, organization, and any social media handles at your leisure. This will serve as a living resource to stay in touch, collaborate, and continue the conversation sparked during this gathering. Let's take a moment to be in community because we're strong together. And then Karan dropped it in the chat, so definitely, I know I'm on there. Put your stuff on there, y'all, because I'm gonna connect with every single one of you guys.